Isaiah Hunter for the Husker touchdown.
Who do you think you're fooling? Nobody's thinking about their job the day before a Husker game.
Pedals the throw. Blitz picked up. Harris went out deep right sideline. 50-50 ball. It's picked off. The black shirts with the dagger. Malcolm Hartzog with a giant pick. Sails the night for the Big Red. Drifts back to throw. Dumps it to an underneath crosser. Goody made the catch. Got popped. Ball's loose, but they say incomplete.
This is the Friday Husker Tailgate with Jack Mitchell, Nate Rohr, John Bishop, and Kevin Suits on Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3 KLI.
Peach jam is great.
Don't bring that debate here. I'll say something I regret. John brought in his breakfast, and it's an English muffin, fine. Which it's one of the lower rated breads, I would say.
Well, it was the last one left.
Yeah. Well, just in the bread world,
it was either that or a hot dog bun.
But probably. Well, anyway, with chunky peanut butter, which I'm fine with, which is good. Yep. And then he slathered peach jam all over the peanut butter.
Oh God. Yeah. And it's got chunks of peach in it too, with the hairs and everything.
Again, I have never been a fruit connoisseur of. Listen, there are certain fruits I like fine. They're fine. But a few that have always bothered me is peaches, because mainly of the hair and the consistency of a baby's head, and the taste. And then you probably like pears too, don't you?
Not really.
Oh boy, I'm surprised, because if you really like the taste of sand, or kind of the consistency of a little gravel, that really
was
nice.
Always the most disappointing day when at school lunch. Instead of the fruit cocktail, and I can tolerate the peaches in the fruit cocktail because there's enough of the other stuff in there. But when it was just pears, very disappointing.
Listen. Fruit power rankings, pineapple number 1. It's not really close after that. Number 2.
Yeah. So you got a problem with hair on your fruit, but spindly spines.
Again, no one's taking a pineapple and going.
They should try it.
Biting out of the side of it. I'm sure someone has who didn't have a knife and was very hungry.
Exactly. I got no knife.
There's not much you can do at that point. Welcome into the Friday Husker Tailgate. We're already in our blowout
fruit
material.
Talk.
Yep.
Yeah.
We're already in the talk.
I did ask Kyle if Kyle Crooks, if he and Damon were ready with their blowout material, if they used all their blowout material last week, because they may need some more this week. Yeah. I don't know. Has Nebraska and Nebraska fans ever been this comfortable coming into a game talking about the fact, or at least the belief, that it's likely going to be a blowout?
Jack, it was called the Kansas game every year back in the day.
Years ago.
Game?
Where are all of the people that are like,
North Texas in 93?
I just can't believe there's no one who's said something to me on the text line or anything this week. You're going to jinx them against Houston. Because I don't think anybody actually thinks that. No. It's amazing. All of a sudden, I don't know if it's the level of confidence now in this team, or the disrespect for Houston Christian, the royal blue and orange of Houston, Texas.
Yeah.
I'm not sure which it is, but I have not. That's a take I almost would always get when I talk like I have this week about this game. I don't know. Have you gotten any of that?
None. No, you kidding?
It's kind of
looking ahead to Michigan.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting. Probably because it's an FCS team, and probably because
I
don't know if we weren't really talking like that before Akron, right? You look at our predictions last week, which, by the way, I was closest. I was the one who went out on. I said 52 points, and I was still quite short.
Two scores off.
I was still more than 2 scores off.
Yeah.
But
your prize, by the way, is a pear and a peach.
Yay! I always liked sandy fruit and hairy fruit. But I don't think that people were going into the Akron game like that was a sure thing. I think Nebraska fans thought they would win, but we were all thinking something like 38-10 wouldn't have surprised.
Well, they double covered the spread, Spread was 34, they won by 68.
I did a little bit of an exercise this week. I was thinking about making it into something that I was going to write, and then I never did. And so I guess I'll just use it for this show, though. I put together a formula that I will grant is quite arbitrary, but I decided to rank Nebraska's near perfect games in the post-World War II era.
What defines a perfect game?
Well, that's very subjective, but
yes,
I decided to do it. So I only considered games. I actually think I have to add 2 on here that I missed, but I only considered games where Nebraska scored over 50 and allowed 0 points. Okay.
Oh, wow. Right. Well, I mean, that does narrow it down. And how far are we going back here?
So I said post-World War II. So the 50s, the first game, the earliest game I have in here is 1954 Hawaii. The Nebraska won 50-0. That's the earliest game.
Which they celebrated with pineapples.
Which they did. And they had no knives. And they just right afterwards
bit it right from the outside.
Right there where they played the Pro Bowl. They just went and so I got, let's see, 23 games. I know I have 2 of them that I have to add on here that I missed that I was doing double check. But of these that I included here, so here's what I did. I took a look at the amount of first downs the opponents gained. I took a look. So that kind of basically, since there were 0 points, that's really the only other thing I could kind of look at for the defense. I feel like if you're, and then I looked at the amount of punts and turnovers the offense had. Okay. So essentially drives that did not end up in points. And then I said, okay, if you play a perfect game let's say for the purposes of this, it's 84 points. Okay. So 21 points, 3 touchdowns a quarter, essentially.
Yeah.
Right. That's kind of, I feel like asking about the most you can from the team. And so anything they got deducted for anything below 84 points. Okay. So say 84 points is the standard in terms of how many points they were scored. They got deducted for each first down they gave up to the opponent, and then they got deducted for punts and turnovers. Okay. And I could break down all the numbers if anybody really cares, but I don't know that you will. I then ranked them according to my perfection ranking, which I needed a name for this index here because, I don't know if you know this or not. People got mad at me and your co-host because we made a formula for bad games. And so here, look at this. I should be lauded by the people for this, for making a rating for great games.
I mean, you called the bad ones groin kick, but
groin soothe,
groin massage.
People have been asking Nate and I to do a groin soothe Wednesday, like the first Wednesday of every month. Maybe this is the beginning of that. If you were wondering, the Akron game, what do you think so there were all of these blowouts, and I told you the thing. Where do you think the Akron game ranked, guys? Out of 20, what did I say? 25 games, and I did miss the Oklahoma State game. They won 55-0, and I missed one more. Dave Feit told me one more that I missed. I got to add it in here.
I would say the Akron game was probably like in the low teens, maybe or like anywhere between like 11 and 14.
Based on that,
maybe. I mean, I'm
slightly higher. I would say maybe 7 to 10.
Well, based on mine, it was the number 3 most perfect game in history, trailing only 2 games I know you know about, John. 1986 Kansas, which was 70-0.
Started by Cleet Blakeman.
Wow.
He started back-to-back years against Kansas.
So in that game, Nebraska gave up 9 first downs.
Wow.
Gave up a total of 100 yards, which I didn't factor in, but just in case you were wondering. Punted once, had no turnovers. So that was the top. Number 2 is a game in 1982, New Mexico State,
which was the other 68-0
68-0. That one, I didn't consider yards. Had I considered yards, it would have boosted this one even more. While Nebraska gave up 10 first down, it gained 883 yards.
Yeah, they set a national record.
Amazing.
That day.
Gave up 182 yards, 1 punt, no turnovers in those games.
Where was the 1971 Kansas game?
1971.
Because the defense held like KU to negative yards.
Down here a little bit. It's at the bottom half of
They must have turned it over.
The problem was 2 punts, 3 turnovers.
Ooh.
Johnny Rogers, man. What do you
2 punts, 3 turnovers, but they only gave up 7 first downs. In these games, the fewest first downs that was ever given up was 1964 against South Dakota. Nebraska won 54-0, gave up 2 first downs in that game, allowed 72 yards to South Dakota that game. Also, though, turned it over twice, or punted twice, turned it over once. So there you go. In fact, there were only in the games that I looked at in this group, there was only one other game where Nebraska didn't punt. That was one of the most fascinating.
Really?
Things. That's what helps the Akron game so much.
Is that Nebraska
Zero
did
punts.
not punt.
It was, and that game was 2006 against Troy. Nebraska won 56-0 in that game and did not punt in that game.
Wow.
So
how about that?
That's pretty impressive.
So there you go.
So Dana Holgerson saying we didn't score on 70% of our drives. Sorry, Dana, you're wrong. This is number 3 on the index.
Right. So
this is a good game.
The question is, can Nebraska move ahead this week of 1986 Kansas and Clete Blakeman?
Well, the first
NFL referee.
The first threshold is to shut them out again.
Yes. You got to score over 50 and shut them out to even get on in
That's
this
the toughest one.
air. There's only
That's the toughest one.
Yeah.
If I add the 2 games that I'm told I missed, that would make 20. I think 26.
What were the
total
games you missed? Do you remember?
One was Oklahoma State. They won 55-0 in the 90s, which I should know this one. And then the other one was another South Dakota game. I was told that I missed in the 60s.
Okay.
Which I don't know. I remember when I was a kid and I was looking back at the schedules when I lived in South Dakota and I was a Nebraska fan. I was like, wait, what? Nebraska played South Dakota? What? I didn't even know South Dakota.
That was Devaney's first win.
I lived in South Dakota and I didn't even know South Dakota had a football team. It was amazing.
And now you've lived long enough to see the Huskers schedule USD and FCSU.
Exactly. Yeah, those they've come a long way. But so that's something fun.
Number
maybe
3.
Maybe to watch for. According to the Jack Mitchell perfection rating.
You've got some metrics here. You've got good metrics.
And by the way, so you start at a 10, okay? You lose 0.01 for every point that you score below 84. So that's considered perfect. And then let's see, you get 0.025 taken away for every first down that you get, 0.1 for every punt that you give up, and 0.2 for every turnover. I consider a turnover worse than a punt, right?
Yes.
Because it's so I consider that more of a problem than a punt. So I doubled up the value of that. And again, very arbitrary values. If you tweak these values, these would come out. But I said 4 first downs. Giving up 4 first downs is roughly equal to giving 2 punting, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's equal of a failure on defense as a failure on offense.
You really went to work on this. I mean,
I did.
I spent a lot of gray matter on this.
I really did, and I'm glad I'm using it now because I was going to write something.
Now you
about
need to save it. Well, I hope you get a chance to utilize it many times.
Yeah, we can go back to it. I don't know how often something like this will happen, but yeah. Let's see. What year would that Oklahoma State game have been?
1992.
92.
Yeah.
I was there. I was there selling runses. I don't know why I can't remember it.
And strangely enough, so 92, that was the Huskers conference opener. They played pretty well, and yet there was a bye. And then the next week they were at Missouri. And apparently Dr. Tom was so troubled by the Husker offense.
That's a Tommy Frazier game. So this is the first full or the last full Mike Grant game is what you're telling me.
The last game where Mike Grant was the starter.
Right. Yes. Okay. So I'm going to put in here those numbers here. But, one of the questions, John, is how hard it's interesting because I kind of look at this next game and I assume they can't do this, the virtual perfect game. Again, it honestly would be impressive if they did, not necessarily because Houston Christian proposes a different challenge. It's just the mental difficulty of doing this 2 games in a row.
It's an 11 a.m. kickoff. It's the 3rd week of the season. There's a big game coming up next week against a much, much, much more recognizable opponent, one that has had your number in recent years.
Right.
So yeah, it is. I mean, that is one of the biggest things that Matt Rule is fighting against this week is complacency or is, just sleepiness. Just the idea that, hey, we feel good about ourselves now. And, that's why he's talked about, us being the standard. Nebraska needs to be the standard. You need to live. And that's why Tom Osborne had so much success in games like this was because it wasn't about who the opponent was. It was about making yourself better. And so that's one of the biggest things that has to happen for a program before it really turns the corner and starts to become great is you have to set your own standard and not worry about who's, what logos on the other helmet and what the other team's quarterback's name is. It's just about, reaching your own standard and then taking that to another level. So Yeah, it will be difficult, but if Matt Rule is right and this team has prepared in such a way where it is thinking about bettering itself, it's possible they could do it again.
Yeah.
Well, think about how they got to that shutout, though. I mean, it took them a quarter to really get the offense going, and they needed a blocked field goal to keep the shutout. So
that's true. It's hard. It's very hard to do.
There are a lot of things that have to align just right for you to get this done. And some of that's luck, and certainly the larger portion of it is execution. But it's asking a lot for a team, as you have demonstrated. It's asking a lot for a team to win 50-0 once. Try to do it twice, full focus, full motivation. It's a test for Matt Rule's culture in that respect. I mean, hey, the world's not ending if somehow they win this thing 42-10. You know, it's just so difficult to gauge much of anything from this game because you do have such a talent advantage. You do have so many better players than them.
By the way, 4 punts against Oklahoma State in 1992, so that killed it.
But they gave up no passing yards.
Wow.
OSU.
Each one of these has their own ridiculous stat embedded within them. And I am currently adding the 1962 South Dakota game,
which was Devaney's first game.
South Dakota got 6 first downs and ended up total offense 103 yards to Nebraska's. Now Nebraska was lighting it up in yardage, 455.
Yeah,
maybe
different.
Yeah, but back in that day,
that's true. I should have put inflation, but 3 lost fumbles and 1 punt.
My God,
man, there were. We talk about how many fumbles there are now. When I was doing the Nebraska's had problems with fumbling over recent years. I'm looking at these old games. There are fumbles all over the place.
Well, sure. Remember,
many fumbles.
Even the great Osborne offenses, the early '80 offenses, fumbled a lot because the option offense, there were bad pitches at times. Oklahoma famously fumbled a lot, but the difference was Nebraska usually got more than its fair share back, and they were good enough anyway that the fumble essentially just became a punt because the other team couldn't do anything with it, and then they would get the ball back. But yeah, that's one of the biggest differences between older games of the 70s and the 80s and the games of today is, you have to earn your fumbles now. You got to knock the ball out or hope that somebody drops it or, pulls was it JJ Flanagan or who was that?
JJ Flanagan just dropped it.
Yeah, just dropped it in the middle of the field. Yeah, it is a bit of a different game, but yeah, fumbles were a lot more common back then.
Well, you even think of a game of the century. Jerry Taggy had a fumble. Like he's running he fakes a counter and like he puts the ball behind his back. He's doing Magic Johnson stuff, and then he gets hit, and the ball pops out, and Oklahoma takes over, and that's how that's how they took their last lead of the game. Mm-hmm. So, that they were not nearly as the 5 points of protection. Which should now be.
They weren't doing the X when they came across the goal line.
Yeah.
Really,
Johnny Rogers didn't famously do the X when he crossed
Frank
the goal
Solich, when he went across, wasn't doing the X. Huh?
I don't think so.
Sad, very sad.
So,
by the way, okay, I added the other 2 in. Neither of them made even the top 10. So, so we have got that. Now, here's of the modern era. You want to know what the other best one is in Nebraska near perfect game history? It's the 2000 game against Baylor, where Nebraska scored 38 points in the first quarter of that one, where Keo Craver blocked a punt, took it back, or he took back a block punt. Dan Alexander had 2 touchdowns. Crouch had a 14-yard run. Buck Coulter had a 36-yard run, and you had a Brown field goal all in the first quarter. They had Jamal Lord scored in the second quarter of that game. Oh, my gosh. Holy cow.
Who was they'd blown out Kevin Steele by then, hadn't they, or had they?
What was the one? Was it the year before in Baylor when they had in Waco when they had 5 guys over 100 yards rushing?
That was the next year.
That was the next year.
I thought it was 97.
Yeah, that was in the night. No, you're right. It was later. It was later. It was
I think it was 2001.
It was 01. You're right. It was 01.
Because Crouch. It was Crouch and
it was
Davies,
the year.
and yeah.
Because I was in college during this one. By the way, in that one, Baylor, in terms of the most impressive yardage given up, Nebraska gave 84 yards to Baylor in that game. of total offense.
Do you even lift Baylor?
5 rushing yards, 27 rushes for 5 yards.
Goodness.
For Baylor, that 2000 team. Oh my goodness. So that one actually 1 spot below Akron in the blowout ratings.
Incredible.
Again, because 3 punts. Like the 0 punts is genuinely impressive.
Right. And, now there were a couple of fumble. Well, there was a fumble and there was a stop at the goal line. So that's what.
Yeah, maybe I should
2 drives.
I probably should have included missed fourth down conversions if I was being very technical.
Well, but it's not often that you get, a lot of 4th down conversions in a blowout.
That's as bad, I suppose, as a punt. But in any case,
and I mean, you think
it's an imperfect formula.
But you know what? We just all strive for perfection as we move along. But you even think of the one giveaway, and so often giveaways give the other team great field position. The one giveaway set up a safety and another possession.
Right. Yeah.
So like I said, there's luck involved in this too. I mean, obviously Nebraska played really, really well last week, but they did get a few breaks too. And you know what? You look at the early part of the year, the one giveaway they've had all season results in a safety. And think about the 2 near giveaways in Kansas City. Probably should have been a pick 6.
Mm-hmm.
And then, there was the fumble that Raiola immediately
the hungry hippos fumble that I'll always call it.
Yeah. So now, hey, Nebraska footballs do some good luck.
100%.
Especially
they can get
fumbles.
50 games in a row like that where the fumble bounces back to them, and the universe is still going to owe them a little bit. That's just the interest.
I hear there's a video series that goes into that. But
my goodness.
Anywho, but they've been good and they've been a little lucky. And hey, luck is the residue of design, but let us acknowledge that they have gotten a couple of breaks.
Luck is the residue of design.
Branch Rickey.
Put that on a coffee cup.
Yeah.
Is that a Lombardi?
Oh, you stole it from Branch Rickey.
Yeah,
Sad.
the old
Branch Rickey,
the Dodgers GM.
Okay, sorry, I'm still working on my formula in the background while we're doing the show. I've come up with a name for it as we've been talking here. I am going to name it in honor of, since we're talking about perfect games, these are how close we've gotten to perfect games. And perfect games come from another sport, come from baseball typically. Mm-hmm. And so I have pulled up the 2 perfect games thrown in Nebraska baseball history by Richard Geyer in April of 1954 and Cliff Faust in 1980, the second perfect game in Nebraska history. Now, appropriately enough, they were both against Kansas, which about half the games on this list were also against Kansas. Yeah. So we are going to call this the Geyer-Faust Index or the GFI.
The GFI?
Yeah.
Okay.
The Geyer-Faust Index or the Faust-Geyer Index, FGI.
GFI sounds better than FGI.
All right, GFI.
GFI.
Or the GFS.
Because if it's the FGI, I mean, why do we want to rip on
That's true.
Nebraska's third city? All the great players that have come out of there.
And then, of course, the top one ever is against Kansas. And I joke, Kansas there's 10 of them in here, I think. There's almost a third of them are against
That's what I said.
Man, that program, I forgot. Kids do not understand how bad Kansas was for how long.
The difference between them and Kansas State was K-State was bad every year. Kansas just had lower lows at times, but they would have the occasional, 8-win season or something like that would lift them out of the doldrums. But yeah, Nebraska had a special beat down of Kansas.
And Kansas State's only on the list once on the GFI qualifying
like they would
game.
Slough off. I mean, hey, K-State famously nearly dropped the program in the 80s until Bill Snyder showed up.
Right. Missouri, in terms of Big 8 teams that make it, Colorado's on it, Oklahoma State's on it, Missouri, Kansas, Iowa State. Obviously no Oklahoma, but it looks like everyone else from the Big 8 makes an appearance at some point.
Did you say Iowa State?
Iowa State's on here, yeah. 1975, 52-0. Takes the 12th spot in our rankings.
Okay.
In the GFI.
The GFI. I like it.
It's ground fault index, isn't it? Yeah.
Is it?
Like earthquake. Yeah. Isn't that a thing?
I have no idea.
I know nothing about earthquakes.
Wow. Okay. I feel like maybe I just made that
up.
Well,
we don't really have.
I just don't want to have any earthquake trademark situations, but we'll work on it.
Well, you probably know a lawyer that could battle for that.
No, I don't. Not an active one who has malpractice insurance anyway.
There you go.
All right, let's take a break now to get me to stop working on this and actually participate in the show. And I know Nate's got a bunch of clips, too, that are going to be really good ones this week that'll set up our discussion for this week. Glad to have you with us. Oh, my goodness. Friday is here. That first long 5-day week after the Labor Day weekend is a long week. This was one of these weeks where I was like on Tuesday, I was like, it's Thursday evening, right? No, it's Tuesday morning.
Yeah.
So glad for it to be near the weekend, and we're ready for a good Husker weekend with you right here on KLIN. It's Friday Husker Tailgate. Kevin Suits joins us a little later. Stick around, more coming up on KLIN.
Hear the Husker. But first, your Fantasy Huskers keyword, presented by Nebraska Sign Company. From Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3 KLIN.
All right. It is the final opportunity for you to get a pick in our fantasy draft week number 3 and your chance to win that trio of gift certificates totaling $100 in value. Big Ten Sports Bar and Grill Alumni Hall, and of course my good friends at Rubidoo. But yeah, get that gift card, go out to Rubidoo, have a great time, all the places, and have a great time. Get you set up for a Husker football weekend. But you got to get that keyword emailed, or excuse me, text it. Don't email it to me. Text it to me on the Honey Irrigation text line, 402-479-1400. Keyword is Husky, Husky. Husky.
Of which there are many wild Huskies around Houston. Not really.
I do not associate.
They should have named them the Fighting
Huskies.
CVSs.
I know.
The Fighting Pharmacists.
All I think of is these Huskies trying to do an Iditarod in Houston, and it's 105, and like, this place sucks. Palm trees, running around palm trees. That kind of a thing. Yeah, we'll give you the background on Houston Christian and their mascots a little bit later in the show. But text in Husky and you'll get the final pick. Now, here's the interesting question, guys. So frequently, I would say well over 50% of the time, that is not verified. I would say over 50% of the time, the winner of Fantasy Huskers picks on one of the edges, the highest or the lowest pick.
Ah,
I don't know if you. So the question this week is, what will Nebraska's longest touchdown, rushing or passing, so offensive touchdown, be
so
in
just
terms of
offensive,
yards?
not special teams.
Yep, no special teams, no
Just
interception
offensive.
return. Right,
Okay.
just offensive. So, first of all, John, if I gave you this without telling you any of the answers, what would you pick? Nate and I have made our picks.
Yes.
56.
Okay, you're right in between us. Nate had 40 because he's a giant pessimist, and I had 61.
Okay.
And you had 56. The actual picks range at the low end from Kevin D, 31 yards. And then we've got Cindy, who came in at 38. Then in the 40s, we had Chris and Olathe at 45. We had Steve at 47. Trying not to miss anyone here. And then in the 50s, Scott was our most recent pick from last night. He picked 57. Doesn't look like we have any others in the 50s. In the 60s, we had Roger at 62, Chris at 63, Ike at 69. None in the 70s, but Brandon went 84 yards. So I don't think I'm going higher than Brandon.
No.
I don't know if I'm going.
Hard.
I don't think. I guess you could go lower than Kevin, but there's going to be a touchdown longer than 30 yards.
Yeah, but that's the right play right now
You
because
think so? You get the most.
Because
probably.
there's a chance that Nebraska gets some big plays, but they end up short of the end zone, and then they get a lot of shorter touchdowns. I mean, the only other option is what was that? There's a
gap in
between
the 50s. There's no picks in the 50s. Oh no, there's a 57. I apologize. Wrong about that. So it's between 47 and 57. There's a gap.
Yeah. See, I would take the lower one because you're playing your percentages at this point.
I guess so. But I'd like to cheer for a longer one.
Here's the other one. The other thought though, on the low end, even though I am very much a pessimist
you
about
got
everything.
40.
What is Nebraska going to show in this game from an offensive standpoint? I mean,
it's true, but their first touchdown, they weren't against Akron. They weren't really showing anything.
Right.
Emma Johnson just outran.
Ran.
There was just a hole, and he outran everyone.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah.
That
I don't
one
know if
went
that's
for
necessary. I
47.
don't think they're running any, double reverse flea flickers for 70 yards. I agree, but I don't know if they need that in this game. It'll be about the running back's ability probably to pull away, to be honest.
You're right.
If you've got to, and Emmett, look, I mean, to his credit, he showed some speed that I hadn't seen from him against Akron a couple of times. So anyway, there is your Fantasy Huskers. All right. And set us up for some discussion in the Friday Husker Tailgate sound off.
Well, yeah, there's been plenty of discussion about how Dylan Raiola is running the offense. I mean, the stats are gaudy, 78% completion. He's fifth in the country in terms of completion percentage, and he threw enough downfield, I think, to at least quell some of the concerns that he's not going downfield far enough. And Matt Rule went into how much Dylan Raiola has advanced in running this offense.
It's only this will be game 16 for him. I mean, he's still so young in his journey. He's just doing it at such an advanced level. And he can come out and he can say, oh, it's man, I'm going to go to this. It's two man, I'm going to go to that. It's, so as a play caller, you can give him things and you can call a play. And if it's not the right play, he's going to get you into the better play. No, he's just not picking for whatever. I mean, they've given it to him more. But I think he did a lot of it last year. I just think that we've elevated it and we've added more things. And then the team's just a lot better. The offense, the guys, even the guys, were here last year, they're just playing a lot better. We're better up front. We're better at a lot of positions. So he can get the checks and guys aren't missing them. We're just another year into it.
Yeah. So I think he's advanced a little, but it's also the weapons around him. I mean, you think about the wide receivers and it's a little early to call this battle over, but I think it's pretty clear that the wide receivers have taken a step forward this year from last year and are a little more potent. And, the rest of the offense is settled in to where they feel like they can check plays at the line and stay out of the bad plays.
I think a combination of that, a combination of his maturity and frankly, a combination of the game situations he's been in has probably made him feel that he doesn't have to try to do too much like he did last year. I think he probably feels that way a lot better. And again, and part of it is a game situation. Part of it is exactly what you said. And then part of it's probably just maturity, understanding, hey, we can do what we need to do in the offense. I don't need to make the spectacular play or the high risk pass, and we can still have success with this offense. And maybe that's Dana Holgerson's influence too on him as well. But that's what I see. I feel like a guy who maybe earlier in his career felt like he had to make the play, right? He had to make the play. And now he just feels like he needs to run the play,
right?
Basically, is kind of the difference that I see, John.
Well, Rule talked about this. I'm not sure, Nate, if you have this one, but he talked yesterday about one of the things that Dylan has gotten really good at, and that is pre-snap reads and flipping coverages or flipping protections, because that's such a critical part. I mean, if you want time to complete those deep throws, those seam throws, you got to have time. And if you don't set your protection properly, it can blow up an entire play. And so that is another thing that he has elevated his game on. And it's basically started rather recently. It started, with the bowl game last year. And now, with another off season working with Dana Holgorsen, it's kind of taken that next step. So a lot of the great quarterback play happens before the ball is snapped, and it's an overlooked part of the game. But when you can get that part of it down, it makes everything post snap so much easier. And I think that's another thing that Dylan has done to elevate his play.
Yeah, John referred to it. Let's go to that cut about how Dylan's adjusted protections to get himself in a better spot. We'll get there.
I want, and I was just going to say, I was going to put the number up. I had it yesterday, but Dylan Raiola, in terms of percentages, passing percentage, I believe is in the top 5 or 6 in the nation right now, completion percentage, and number 5. And he's also got more pass attempts than anyone above him or anyone in the neighborhood at all, until you get down to number 12 on the list. Number 1, for instance, is 14 for 17, a Tulsa quarterback. And then you got Sayan from Ohio State, who's got 39. And so in terms of mass passers, he's the best or the second best in the country right now.
So here's the cut John was referring to.
I think where you see a lot of growth from him is in the flipping of protections too, because as I said, there's a couple steps to it. First, a lot of guys come out and they play quarterbacks. Where am I throwing the ball? And they get blitzed in the face, get hit in the face, and they have no idea. And the next level up is to understand, hey, 2 guys come over here, I'm hot, I got to get the ball in my hand. That's where a lot of guys play in college. The next step is, hey, I'm going to get hit. I'm going to check the protection, and I'm going to, protect myself. He's at the 4th step, and it happened after Iowa going into Boston College. Iowa did a great job. They kept blitzing the back, keeping the back in, and then he had no relief when the guys weren't open. And he started, after that game, going into Boston College, he was now flipping the protection, even when he knew there wasn't a problem, to the guy he thought was coming so that the back could get out.
So there you go. That speaks to a greater advancement, even from the understanding of the offense to the subtleties of the offense. It's one thing to get the right play, but then there's sort of the shading in there as far as the protection. And it's stuff that will help you now, but the cumulative effect of not getting hit will really help him down the road. Especially, remember last year, he was limited by injury, by getting hit.
Yeah. I mean, there's really a big difference between a true freshman quarterback and a sophomore quarterback. I mean, there really is. And we'll probably be talking about that a lot next week when Michigan comes into town. But it just the immersion, essentially, and I know he was here in the spring before his freshman year, but the complete immersion in the offense after having run it for a season, I have got to imagine really exponentially increases your ability. Any quarterback, it really increases your ability just to know what to do and the things that he was talking about in that clip.
Well, you've heard Dana Holgorsen talk about, hey, TJ Lateef, for a true freshman quarterback, has been here for 4 installs. Whatever quote unquote installation occurred when Dana Holgorsen took over as the offensive coordinator, Dylan was here for that too. So he had essentially a 3-game ramp up under Dana Holgorsen. And then he had all January, all spring ball, all summer, all August. So, and he just brings to it, I think, an understanding of football that's a little higher than your average player.
I wonder when the last time, multiple games into the season, Nebraska had a quarterback ranked in the national top 20 in completion percentage, yards, and touchdowns. And if this game is any statistically,
I wonder where Joe Gans was.
That's
in
a good
spot,
question because
he had a really good season in his senior year. But
if this is any kind of a statistical game like the last ones were, he's going to jump up there in all of these probably, right? Even if he plays only a half.
But honestly, the most important thing, I mean, you look at yards per attempt, which was really sub where you want it to be against Cincinnati, but then was, I think, almost 10 or over 10 against Akron. That's one thing. And then it's the turnovers. It's mitigating the turnovers. Right. If Nebraska's only had a couple of times in the last 10 years or once in the last 10 years where they had a positive turnover margin. So far, they're above water right now. And that if that stays, it's going to make the chances of winning a lot better.
And real quick, just put a bow on that and move on to something else. I do want to see it against another team before I get really excited.
Sure.
I see it against Michigan, I'm going to get excited.
Sure.
Yes. But that anyway, that's what I'd say. That's what I'd say about a lot of things right now. All right. What else you got?
All right. This got a lot of oxygen during the week. Matt Rule was not for a game that was 68-0 at final, and at halftime, the score was 26-0. Matt Rule was not thrilled with his ball club at half, and we saw evidence of that. And Matt discussed his discussion with the team at half.
What I was pleased at, I went after them at halftime. I freaking lost it in the locker room. I was pissed that we let them drive the ball down right before the half and almost make a field goal. Like, where's the killer instinct, right? That's my that's why I bring up the thing about Archie. Like, I don't want to be a joke. I don't want us to be I want us to be a football place, right? Football teams, you put away the people you're supposed to put away. You don't let them have life. So I wasn't happy before the half, right? And then, when we went to take a knee and they cut us, which I have no issue with what they did. That's something you do at the end of games. They just, their kids are trained to do that. I went after our O-line. Like, they don't fear you. Like teams are supposed to come in and they're supposed to say, like, I never want to. They're supposed to walk up to their AD and be like, don't schedule them again. That's the mentality we're supposed to have. And that's where I went off in the locker room, the coaches and players.
And that speaks to what we were talking about earlier, which is you're not playing against the scoreboard, especially in that game and especially in this game. You're playing against your own standard. And you think about Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan manufactured motivational tax and maximized the smallest slights. Well, what did Matt Rule? Did anybody notice that their D-line cut Nebraska's offensive line?
I watched it. It was not much.
Yeah, exactly.
No. I went back and watched it. I was like, oh man, I didn't. One guy kind of dove in. The guy who was across from Spindler, and Spindler backed up. Spindler just sort of backed up and barely. Yeah. And he didn't even look mad. Right after it did not. I've seen a lot worse than I've seen in that situation.
But isn't it something? I mean, he pushed that button of, hey, they're not scared enough of you. They don't respect you. They don't know that you're good yet. And he pushes that button, and rather than the team going, Coach, we're up 26-0 and they can't do anything, the team said, you know what? You're right. We're going to play with our hair on fire. And they did. And that's where 26-0 at half became on that list as a perfect game instead of a 42-14 or something like that, where they just kind of futzed around for the second half, and where effort has been a question, or that fire, that extra push, and they were up for Ohio State and they were down for UCLA. The fact that he was able to push that button, I think, speaks well.
I think two things can be true. I think talking about Akron being disrespectful or any of those things through anything they did at the end of the first half is patently hilarious and false.
Yeah.
And number two, I love it.
No, sure.
I love it.
Alabama famously, before they played Washington in the playoff, posted a bunch of caustic sayings that were alleged to have been said by Washington players. They turned out not to be true. I mean, the great ones do this. They motivate themselves, and I'm not saying what Matt Rule was doing was over-exaggerating something or lying about something, but
I don't know if it was lying. It was.
But I mean,
stretching the truth.
The main message was you need to go out there and finish them off, and because we've seen this before, where Nebraska's had teams. And no, you were never threatened in this game, but This is the same lessons that could have been learned in the Cincinnati game. Cincinnati could have won that game. They had no business winning that game or being in that game, but they were, because Nebraska didn't put them away. And so
it's true.
You can't just selectively say we're going to be a team that puts you away. You have to be willing to do that every game. And so even in a game where you're up 30 at halftime, you still want to see that killer instinct. And I'm sure part of it too was, and I think he made it as part of that speech, and I know we'll talk about it next hour, but he was wanting to get the backups in too. He was wanting to get all those younger guys who work their tails off all camp long a chance to play in a real game.
And I'll add this. The other reason, in addition to it working, and exactly what you guys both said, that this is his job is to motivate, right? And that's not always been done in the last few years very well mentally for this team. And so I've got no complaints. And then the other thing I'll even add on top of that, you know what? It was refreshing to me. And John, you know how often I've talked about this. It feels like there's been plenty of coaches here that have decided to motivate by convincing their team that the people around them doubt them. Okay. That the fan base, that the media doubts them. It was a breath of fresh air. Matt Rule, thank you. Thank you. There's an opponent on the other side, and you have had so many years where it feels like this whole program, the coaches are afraid to use a slight level of disdain specifically about the opponent as motivation.
Sure.
I mean, this isn't even a rivalry game. That's even been like, where has that gone? I mean, look a couple years ago, I thought it was patently ridiculous with the whole Shedeur Sanders disrespected, you disrespected my dad thing. I remember that.
Yeah.
And of course, as a Nebraska fan, it annoyed me. On the other hand, there was a part of me that was like, I kind of wish we would do something like that every once in a while. I wish we had a little something there that we could find some level of fired up against the other team instead of, because you know why I think
turning it inward.
They get in this mental funk all the time when something bad happens. What are they thinking about? Not about how they want to give it to the other team. They're thinking, oh, I feel them doubting me.
I feel the murmurs.
I feel them doubting me because I'm told they doubt me all the time. I hate that motivation. It sucked. It hasn't worked. Get that crap out of here. And I'm talking about two coaches in particular, and I'm glad we don't have that anymore.
Would his first name spelled backwards be Ob?
There, yes. And he wasn't the only one, but that mentality.
But at least he won with it.
I think that mentality.
He won with it, but that only works so
not
well.
forever.
It burns the fuse. Absolutely.
I mean, at the end, it's what also caused the end. Too.
Correct.
Sure. No doubt. And the other part is that you don't want to be looking at the people for whom you seek support, both psychologically and money-wise, and see them as a negative.
It's a flawed way to do it in college sports in Lincoln, Nebraska.
Especially
it's been
now.
Tried. It doesn't work.
I mean,
I applaud Matt Rule for not doing that. Nice job.
Yeah.
I don't know if we have time for one more or not, but I'm passionate about that one.
There is another team on the field this week. Their name is Houston Christian. Matt Rule with some thoughts on the Huskies.
I think you have to start with their defense, what they've done defensively. They give you a ton of different looks. Okay. And so, I think there was one drive in the first 6 plays were 6 different fronts. And so you're constantly seeing different pictures. It's the way we play defense. So I think that presents a real challenge. They show different coverages. They've got some excellent football players. They have a kid 6 who I think is as good a player as you'll see. And so, getting in the right play, knowing our issues, and converting on third down. They've only given up 1 conversion so far this year, so that's difficult to do. Offensively, they're gonna run the football and with different runs than we normally see. They run counter, they run a stretch lead, they run insert. So some plays that we need to see, and the quarterback's a good player. So I think the biggest challenge, though, is, when you go against the defense that's had that level of success, if they don't turn the ball over as many times as they did in the last game, they probably win the game. And so, when someone turns the ball over that many times, you're pretty sure they probably practiced it all week.
Rodney Dansby is the linebacker that he was talking about.
He gets no respect.
10 Indeed. 10 tackles.
What am I going to do here? Hey. I got all these tackles for loss. I get no respect here by Nebraska. What am I going to do? Sorry, but it's not even.
Man, I walk on the field. I walk on the field, and even the cheerleaders boo me.
Hey, What?
I get no respect.
What, are you get a free?
Nice current reference, Jack.
Nice all red uniforms. You get a bowl of soup with those? Anyway. All right, let's grab our break right now. By the way, GFI ground fault, like the outlets. I'm an idiot. Okay, not ground fault as in earthquakes. Anyway, and
you were in the right name.
I was even worked for the Game and Parks Commission for Nebraska in the plumbing and electrical division once. Very sad. Very sad. All that goes away. I lost all my attorney knowledge, all my electrician knowledge. Now I'm just blathering on the radio, not knowing anything. All right.
That's usually what happens. You go on the radio, you get dumber.
Yeah. 6:55. With that said, we'll take a break. This is the Friday Husker Tailgate on KLIN.
Huskers, home and away.
Welcome to KLIN.
Now streaming live on your Amazon device and at KLIN.com.
I will now connect you to the live stream.
Do you... On Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3 KLIN.
All right, since I was ranting and raving, we don't have much time, but we do like to use this last segment here before the top of the hour to get the very latest from Nate in terms of any late-breaking news with injuries or otherwise. What do we have, Nate, going into the game on Saturday?
Well, the only injury news from this week was Malcolm Hartzog was dinged up. They didn't really specify with what, but of course, Hartzog, the hero of the game against Cincinnati, dinged up. He's questionable to play. Jameer Khan could see more playing time if Hartzog can't go or is limited in how much he can.
Okay, there you go. Otherwise, fairly healthy. It sounds like. Obviously, you had the season-ending injury during the Cincinnati game to Janiron Bonner, but other than that, knock on wood, fairly healthy. And that's one of the things you say about these games is like, I just want everybody to get out of here upright after this. All right, hey, I wonder how uniform we're going to be in the helmet stickers, guys. When you have a game like this, you're like, well, it could go to anyone, but I have 3, and I wonder if you guys are going to have the exact same 3 as me. Well, I only get 3, but we'll see if that happens coming up with the helmet stickers. We'll also count down the 5 things we're going to be talking about this Husker weekend. We haven't even touched on the big uniform news from last night. Goodness. Oh, man, I've got some thoughts on that, so we'll talk about that during the morning drive as well, and then Kevin Suits will join us for the 8 o'clock hour, so stick around. A whole lot more tailgating still coming up this morning at 7 o'clock, KLIN Lincoln.
Husker football hosts Houston Christian at Memorial Stadium tomorrow. Game day broadcast presented by Liberty First Credit Union. Kickoff at 11 a.m. Pregame at 7.
This is the voice of Husker football. Kyle Crooks. Join us all season on Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3 KLIN.
Come on and try.
fade route. Back run of the end zone.
Touchdown, Huskers!
Isaiah Hunter for the Husker touchdown.
Who do you think you're fooling? Nobody's thinking about their job the day before a Husker game.
Backpedals the throw. Blitz picked up. Harris went out deep right sideline.
50-50 ball. It's picked off. The black shirts with the dagger. Malcolm Hartzog with a giant pick. Sails the night for the Big Red.
Drifts back to throw. Dumps it to an underneath crosser. Goody made the catch. Got popped. Ball's loose, but they say incomplete.
This is the Friday Husker Tailgate with Jack Mitchell, Nate Rohr, John Bishop, and Kevin Suits on Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3 KL.
Welcome back to hour 2 of the Friday Husker Tailgate. Glad to have you with us here on this September 12th, 2025. 72 degrees in the capital city. And after we had that nice sort of pumpkin spicy feel for game number 1 and the night game, and you brought your hooded sweatshirt, you brought your jacket out of the tailgate. Now they're saying, hey, you can bring a sealed bottle of water in because it's going to be hot out there tomorrow. High of 92. Oh. And it won't be quite that hot when the game starts tomorrow. But when we get things started, we'll be in the lower 80s. And then by the time the game ends, we'll probably be around 90 and warmer as the afternoon goes on.
Asking you to bring a bottle of water too, because then you won't have to go to the concession stand and
stand in the beer line.
Stand in the line.
Listen, they're giving up $7 a shot for those things,
I know.
or whatever it is. Yeah, maybe there's a little. It used to be they did part of the reason they didn't want you to bring water in is because it's not water. What's in there, right? Something else. And they still don't want you to do that, but it feels like the stakes are a little lower for that now.
A little bit.
Oh, sure. A little bit lower now since that's happening anyway. Now, one thing that will be fascinating is I wasn't there. I'm actually going to be there now on Saturday as a fan, and the only way that I go to games. And it'll be interesting because I heard so much about the concessions during the first game. So many people texted us and talked about the experience and for the most part critiqued the experience. So we'll see if they got better between game 1 and game 2 like the football team did.
Honestly, it's going to require getting people back into the stadium and get the vendors back out in the seats.
Yeah.
Right. And I know they won't employ kids, which is fine. I mean, it's a private company. They can't do that. But you need to have vendors in the stands because the one thing that's not going to change is the stadium. The stadium is the stadium. And there's only so much movement that you have around there. And so when you have long lines, it just clogs everything up. So if you can get more or less point of purchase and more in the seating bowl of the stadium, I think that's going to help.
They need more. It's too bad because now they can't get minor kids out there like 14-year-old Jack Mitchell in 1991 who did not try that hard to sell. I was not there. I had already considered myself. I had already felt like I had pulled off personal profit significantly by getting in the game free.
Right.
Yes.
And anything above that was complete. Was complete gravy for me. And sometimes it meant $0. Sometimes it meant $10.
Yes.
Sometimes it meant I somehow lost money. I don't know how exactly, but
well, now the way things are, I mean, you could literally just do what you did and people would come to you.
Well, I did.
Sure.
And that's what I did. I started out with popcorn and nobody wanted popcorn that as much.
True.
Now, year 2, 1992, I got promoted to Runzas.
Yes.
Okay. And 92, we were lucky because we had several cold games.
Mm-hmm.
I was also lucky because they had a very finite amount of Runzas, kind of like the beers now, but they had a very finite amount of Runzas at the game. 1992 Colorado Halloween game sold out of Runzas before kickoff.
Yes.
At that game. And
so that's why you never came up to my section.
That's
you jerk.
Yeah.
And it's partially because, and I kid you not, people would buy them when they walked in, and then they would just, when it was cold, and they would just put them in their pants.
Yes.
Right.
They were hand warmers.
They were basically hand warmers.
I mean, Runza puts up a sign to that effect when the games get cold. One of their LED signs in the stadium says Nebraska.
Yeah, that 92, like that. It was sleety, rainy, Halloween against Colorado. It was free the minute because everyone was already wet, and they saw that Runza thing, and I would open that styrofoam cooler and they would buy it, and the steam would raise out of there, and they would like
Hold
warm
their
their
hands
hands on
on
it by a fire, and they're like, "I'll give you anything for what's inside of there."
Yeah, you should have had a side hustle there. Hey, $2 for
just to
free
warm your
steam
hands, right, to go put it over the styrofoam cooler. And so any entrepreneurial awards I was ever going to get was not based on my work there.
Yeah.
But I did get to see a lot of good important football games
Most
for
important
free during the other real quick funny thing was what we had to do. This was another odd thing. So you had to buy your whole box of whatever you had. So I had to bring money to buy the whole box of popcorn or whatever it was. We got to buy it at 90% or 100% of value, and we got to sell it at 110%. So basically we paid 90 cents on the dollar for it. We got a 10% profit for everything we sold. So I sold a $1 box of popcorn. I made 10 cents.
Yes.
Is how it worked.
Okay.
So yeah, that's another reason I wasn't making a lot of money. The one, if you want to make money, you had to sell pop. That's what you had to do.
Right, because everyone's going to buy something to drink.
With the cellophane, or you had to carry the big metal thing around your body for hot dogs too. But anyway, I wasn't in it for the money. All right, that said, let's get into helmet stickers for this week. We are going to go, by the way, right now leading the helmet sticker race, and Isaiah Hunter with 3, Emmett Johnson with 2, and then we have 4 players tied with 1, only 1 game in. So here's how it works. We each have 3 helmet stickers to give away. We can give them away for whatever purpose we want. It's fairly subjective who you think stood out in that game. We'll go around the table. We'll go Nate, John, myself. If someone gives one that you've got on the list, we'll just all say it at the time, and we'll just go ahead and give it and have the conversation about it there, and that might happen here. So there you go, Nate. You got your first helmet sticker. Who are you giving it to?
You know, on one hand, I feel bad just because I drafted him. On the other hand, look, he's managed the offense about as well as you could ask for 2 games. He was distributing the ball well. He was able to go downfield a little more than he has been. Dylan Raiola gets my first helmet sticker.
I got one for him also.
I got one for him
right,
also.
Make it 3. There you go.
It's a very easy one. And so yesterday I posted a graphic because there was a Heisman favorites graphic that went out, and I posed the question: true or false? 2 weeks from today, Dylan will be on this graphic.
Ooh.
The vote right now is 50-50.
How deep did it go? Like 10 people?
About 10 to 12 deep. And if you remember, but if you remember the thing about Heisman hype, especially early in the season, you got to beat somebody.
Yeah.
You think so?
Yes,
Maybe.
you have to beat somebody,
think
or
people
you have to
look at the
really
stats?
shine. Like, remember, Taylor Martinez was a September Heisman guy.
Yes, he was.
His freshman year.
Because of what he did to K-State.
Right. So if
everyone was watching that.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. Dylan's already got the numbers. We've quoted him before. They'll probably continue this week.
Yeah,
Maybe
he'll
not.
have the numbers
He'll
after
have the
this
numbers
week.
again. Go out and just play it. Heck, just go out and play
and win
a good game against Michigan and win. He'll be in that conversation.
I agree.
He'll be in that conversation.
Yeah, and we got into it, really extensively in the first hour, so we don't need to retrace all of that. But it seems like everything slowed down for him. I think to some degree, and he's done well. Isn't it fascinating because we're still only 2 games in, and we'll see how this progresses over the year. A lot changes in that time. But one of the things at least I was complaining about after the first game is that he wasn't taking some shots that I thought were there against Cincinnati. And since then, that's obviously you've had a lot of discussion about that might be a little bit by design, and that it's worked.
Yeah.
But again, man, I cannot wait to see him against a defense like Michigan and just see how it looks. I am really excited just to kind of see. That is going to be a real measuring stick on how he has progressed toward what we all believe his ceiling is as a player overall, and how much he's getting closer to that. So, all right. So all 3 to Dylan Raiola. That ties him immediately with his wide receiver and Isaiah Hunter for the lead. So Nate, all the way back to you.
Second one, man, I'm going obvious here. 140 rush yards, 134 in the first half, 10 yards a carry. I've joked that Emmett Johnson, basically every run is between 4 and 5 yards, but he broke off a couple of big ones. And Matt Rule talked this week about how he's trusting his long speed rather than cutting back. Just hit the gas and run as fast as you can. So he continues to grow. hey, he fumbled once down near the goal line, but I can live with that. Emmett Johnson, I hope he doesn't do enough to get a helmet sticker this week. But he gets one for Akron.
Yep, I got one too.
Agreed.
All right, another unit. There it is. Could we go all the way? So that jumps him to first. He had 2 last week. He has got 5 already.
How many
this young season?
How many folks had their jaws go wide open when you saw that big wide rushing lane, and you thought he might break one?
Yeah.
It was kind of like watching Buddy Biancalana hit his first home run. I mean, it was just like, wow, this is great. He finally did it.
It was great because he hadn't had that happen. And the other thing about that play, I mentioned it earlier, is he had to show, to what you said there, he had to do a little straight line speed at the end. He had one of those Akron guys that looked like he might have an angle on him. And one of his people who have critiqued him and said, well, he's just not going to be a big play threat because he doesn't have enough speed. Well, at least on that play, he won with speed. Now, will he all the time? We'll see. But it's hard to find the fumble. It's hard beyond the fumble. It's hard to find any critique of him this year so far. And he's added a lot of receiving yards as well.
Yeah.
I think on the fumble, I am a little bit patient because he's got a pretty large sample size and he's not been someone who's fumbled.
Well, that was a good hit too.
Yeah, it was a perfect hit.
Yeah, it wasn't a situation where he was being careless with the football. I thought it was a good hit, and sometimes you just got to tip your hat to the opponent. There wasn't a lot good that Akron did. That was one thing.
Yeah, certainly.
I believe, I don't have the numbers in front of me. I was going to try and pull them up. I probably won't be able to get them, but I know he has not had a ton of fumbles over the years in his other years. I don't think it's on this sheet probably that I'm looking at right now, but I remember looking at that in the past, maybe one each of the last 2 years, I want to say, if that. It's not been super frequent. So but in any case, if you are wondering about his averages right now, he's averaging 6.4 yards per carry so far this year. That puts him 1.3 yards above where he was last year, averaging 124 yards per game, rushing the ball. And now touchdowns from scrimmage, he's got 3. Do you know how many he had last year for the year?
2, right?
3.
Or 3.
3.
Okay.
Wow.
2 receiving and 1 rushing. He's already tied his career high for a season in rushing touchdowns this year with 2.
Okay.
So this guy has 8 touchdowns in his life as a college football player, and he's gotten 3 of them.
Well, he's going to add to that. So.
Yeah, and the fact that Dana Holgorsen has made a concerted effort since he became the offensive coordinator to feature him. You know, running backs need touches. They need rhythm. I mean, you don't, there's a law of diminishing returns there eventually, but Emmett Johnson never approached that. He's gotten consistent work. He's gotten consistent carries. He's built the game feel to break off the big run, and the consistent work has really helped him. And so he's developed as a running back for Nebraska, and especially as Dana Holgorsen has shown some faith in him.
Guys, he is the number 9 right now. Again, small sample size, number 9 rusher in the nation. And of Power 4 running backs who have only played 2 games, he is, by my count, number 3. Number 3 behind Jonah Coleman of Washington and Justice Haynes of Michigan. So there you go. You could end up having another headline for the game coming up on next Saturday is 2 of the top rushers statistically in the entire nation, in all of Power 5, at least Power 4 at least. So
an old Big Ten running back battle.
All right, Nate. Well, I guess I don't know if we've ever gone all the way around the table 3 unanimous. I don't know if we will. Let's see.
It's questionable, just like this guy was for the game, allegedly. Ja'Cory Barney, 7 catches, 132 yards. As he had 87 punt return yards. Nebraska in punt returns exceeded what they did each of the last 4 years. And then also just his energy. I mean, this was a game where energy and mentality and how you are talking to your teammates was a real factor. And Ja'Cory Barney's energy, love for the game, passion, along with his immense physical gifts, were all really important in this one. So Ja'Cory Barney.
All right.
And I agree.
You got one?
Yeah, I'm going with Ja'Cory as well. The fact that we thought this time last week, he might get a series or two.
Yeah.
And yet he was out there from the jump. He looked great. He did not look like he was affected at all by the ankle. And yes, based on the punt returns alone, the fact that Nebraska outdid their entire season last year in one game, tells you how bad last year was in terms of special teams and how much this could be a positive factor. We've often said, heck, just give us an adequate special teams. Don't even give us a good one. Just give us an adequate one, and so many things will get better. There's a threat here that Nebraska will have good special teams, the difference-making special teams that the better Nebraska teams have had. And let's face it, if they're going to be maybe a little weak on the defensive side, if maybe the run, it's going to get made up if you can win field position. Nebraska has not been a great winning the field position battle. Special teams is the one area that you can do that. And Ja'Cory Barney, I thought really showed out well, despite the fact that he was apparently injured.
Well, I will not make it the most boring helmet sticker segment of all time by going on. Hey, Nick, can you turn my computer up? I want to have this person say his name for me so I don't say it wrong.
Yep, you're up.
So let's see if I can get this to work.
Cade Petrock.
Cade Petrock. There it is from West Fargo, North Dakota. Number 93, tearing through the line early in the game and making a couple of havoc plays as we've talked about. And I have got to go on my phone to my roster because I'm sitting in my basement and I'm saying, I have no idea who number 93 is. And I didn't. And, I guess that's my fault. Maybe I should have been more familiar with the roster. But the defensive lineman, freshman, he was a good recruit, 4-star recruit out of best player in North Dakota from West Fargo, North Dakota. I think I was just a little taken back seeing him in the game that early at that point.
We had heard that, late in fall camp that he was making moves, and there were some folks that thought, they were going to see him as early as the Cincinnati game. But, how many people in their career can say that their first career tackle was a safety?
Yeah.
But it doesn't happen often.
Man, he was doing the things that I was wanting someone to do. Yeah. That was one of my slight complaints about the first game was like, where's someone in the backfield and he did it a few times during that game, and he had limited snaps. He didn't play a ton, but he made the most of what he did. So I will give my third helmet sticker to Cade Petrock.
Petchock. Just think of it this way.
Pitrzak.
Right. It's a good Eastern European name.
Shock. So
Petchock. Like Pet Shock Boys.
You like the Pet Shop Boys.
Yeah. I call them the Pet Shock Boy.
Yeah, the R somehow.
In a western town in Denver, Eastern boys, western girls. In a western.
So this surprised me.
Western goes. Sorry.
No, that's okay. I if I had a fourth, I would have gone with Pet Shock for what you laid out, but also the fact that you kind of need a hero in the defensive line. And
that's what Bonnie Tyler said.
And you better live up to that number, by the way.
Yeah, no doubt.
There's a little pressure here.
Yeah.
Man, this is like a running back in Nebraska wearing 30. You better live up to that number.
I know they don't really retire. They don't really retire numbers anymore, but man, it is. I would not want that number. Man, I would not want that number at Nebraska.
If Sue, because I believe isn't the new thing if they're in both the college and pro football Hall of Fames that gets you in? Bob Brown's that way.
Yeah, Bob Brown's is retired, but also you look
Tom
at the
Novak, of course.
Originally.
Yeah,
Novak and Brown, but also 20 isn't given out. Rogers,
right?
27 Sam Foltz isn't given out. But there's no official. It's kind of a wishy-washy.
Yeah,
and it used to be that they didn't give away 30. Wasn't?
There was a time where the numbers actually were retired. Dave Remington's was retired,
50,
but then
79.
they had to bring them back out because there were too many guys. So they needed the numbers.
Yeah, absolutely. I was shocked. Cade Petrock was the leading tackler.
Yeah,
which is surprising.
How many
nobody
times
had many? But
so those of us, if we get the PDFs of the final stats. Nebraska's defensive PDF participation chart went halfway into another page.
Yes,
you don't see that very often.
That's true. 40.
I mean, they played 100. Was 108
I counted 108 guys. 40 different guys made a tackle. 40.
Not only that, but 15 guys were targeted and 14 made a catch in the passing game.
Yeah.
That's got to be a record.
You know, here's an idea that I just had because I'm on record liking the concept of the single digits, but not liking it in practice.
Right.
Because I just don't like how it looks. And I don't like, what if they took at any position, had a couple of numbers that were reserved, like a 93 at defensive line, and like, you know, at a running back, a 30, at a quarterback, a 15, whatever. Yeah. And those were the numbers that they gave out, which were basically, you know,
elevated
legendary players at those numbers. And that would be, I think that would actually be a cool way to, instead of retiring numbers, they become part of that single digit group. And those are the jerseys that are given out.
Oh, I like that a lot.
Because I think I just had a great idea.
I think that's, and there are schools that'll do that like with one number. I feel like Syracuse did that with 44 for a time.
They did.
And you know, like 88 with the Cowboys is usually their best wide receiver.
Right. Do it by position instead of having these goofy single digit numbers.
Right. Because it looks super weird to see Riley Van Poppel in 5.
Are we getting close to the time where we're starting to use letters?
I don't know.
Hey, good play like by R there.
Number X or letter X.
Yeah, do it like the
emojis,
small town,
you know.
Oh God. Tackle made by 9 smiley face.
All right. You've got to reset your password. All right, we got to take a break. 7:29. We're going to count down the 5 things people are talking about this Husker Week. It's a morning drive brought to you by Stonebridge Insurance and Wealth Management. That's coming up next on the Friday Husker Tailgate on KLIN.
Husker Volleyball hosts Utah today. First set at 6 p.m. Pre-game at 5.
This is John Baylor. Catch Husker Volleyball all season long on Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1400 and 99.3 KLIN.
5 topics to get you going for game day. It's a special Friday Husker Tailgate edition of the Morning Drive, presented by Stonebridge Insurance and Wealth Management on Lincoln's Husker Radio. 99.3 KLIN.
Welcome back to the Friday Husker Tailgate. Jack Mitchell, Nate Rohr here as always, but joining us on Friday mornings is John Bishop.
Hello.
Who now typically we have, if you missed it last Friday on Drive Time Lincoln, the afternoon show, we are doing what I believe you called last week
Super Friends Roundtable.
Super Friends Roundtable.
You get to be
Hardesty keeps asking me what the name of the segment is, and I was like, I don't know if we're really calling it that, but maybe we are. But in any case, yes, the Super Friends Roundtable. But there's no Drive Time Lincoln today. So we have volleyball pregame on, Nebraska volleyball versus Utah tonight, pregame at 5. So my part will be just on 1620, the zone. But then next week again, we will be back. And I think
maybe
Josh will
will
actually be there.
Yeah.
We did it with Michael Severe last week, but that'll be 5:30 to 6 for a little NRG Synergy Superpower from 5:30 to 6. All right, with that said, it's time to count them down at your morning drive. So without any further ado, let's get it started with
Number 5.
Well, we had it teased all week, but it looks like it is happening. Matt Rule was talking about the blood moon randomly at the press conference. There were tweets about the moon. And then
Does this man sleep?
And then last night, Nebraska football's Twitter account put out a tweet that just said Red Dawn. And then it had.
Now, wait a minute. If it's Red Dawn, they should save them for next week because you remember the name of that group, right? They were the Wolverines.
That's actually true. They should have a whole Red Dawn themed type situation. It could be appropriate.
We could bring C. Thomas Howell to the game, and
weirdly enough, with current events, it might be super appropriate. But anyway, Nebraska appears to be wearing all red uniforms, red pants, and red jerseys, red gloves also, and for what it's worth on the little video that was made there by Adidas and Nebraska. And if you don't know your history on this one, while Nebraska has worn all white many times, unfortunately, they have not worn all red since a game in 1986 against Oklahoma. That also happens to be the second game I ever attended in Memorial Stadium and was a devastating loss and still hurts me to this very day. And so I don't know how I feel about this because maybe if we can replace those connotations that I've got with the all red look from that game, this will be good. And they're doing it in a game where they should not lose. They're probably going to win. Right. And so maybe they're doing me a favor by just taking that part of it out of my mind. Although I still, even though they lost, have fond memories of that day. It was the second game. First game I went to was the Oregon game that year. This is the one I really remember going to with my dad. It felt like the biggest environment I could ever imagine for a sporting event. And it was then in 1986. And I remember Broderick Thomas with the keys and everything about that game. Now the look itself, I don't know. Now, John, I'm assuming you don't like it because you generally complain about things like this.
Well, I'm not a big fan of monochromatic uniforms, especially colors like red and blue. All red, all blue. All red looks like there's giant blood clots running around on the field, and all blue looks like they're all blueberries. Now, like all white can look good. I don't personally like it for Nebraska, but I mean, it's more acceptable. It's too much red. It's just too much red. It doesn't offset well, but listen, the kids have been taking their recruiting picks in the all reds for a while now. And so I think this was only a matter of time before they started doing it. It's just interesting that they've chosen this game to do it in. I mean, the most inconsequential game.
It's because of the blood moon.
Sure. I guess that was last week. It means
that war is coming. Didn't you hear?
Yes. I know. Yeah.
Matt told us.
Yeah. The war against the fighting pharmacists.
Yes.
But I mean, you knew this was coming at some point. I'll be curious to see how it looks this time around, because the last time they did it in 86, it was a shock. There was no There was no talk about it before the game.
Yeah, I don't remember a pregame
There was
tweet.
no talk about it.
I don't remember an Adidas hype
I remember
tweet
going to
before.
watch the game, and it's like,
Converse
wait, they're wearing all red. And it was – and back then, teams just didn't do that. About the only team that had, like, you know, that surprised people with the uniforms. Notre Dame would occasionally come out in green.
Yeah.
Right? But that was it. There
were very
weren't
few
alternate
alternates.
uniforms
Yep,
back in
exactly.
1986.
Right.
So it was so shocking. Nowadays, it just kind of blends in with everything.
I was 9 years old, and I remember walking up with my dad into that. Again, the second game I ever went to, and we sat in the Southeast Stadium because he was a grad student at the time, and he was just ahead of me on that ramp that goes into I feel like we went into West Stadium, but I think we sat in South Stadium, but or East Stadium, I mean. But regardless, I remember he was like a step ahead of me, and he was taller than me at the time anyway. And I remember him saying, "Whoa, they're wearing all red."
Right. That's how shocking
like
it was.
And he pulled out his camera and with film in it that would have to be developed much later and started taking pictures of the team on the field. And I still have some of those pictures that he took from that game. And so now here's what I really appreciate about him. I like that they made them look like those. They didn't do anything modern with them, right? They kept the N on the pants.
They wore,
but they got the double stripes.
Cincinnati, yeah.
They got the double stripes there. They got the double stripes on the shoulders. And I actually put them on Twitter. I put them side to side with the ones they wore in 1986. And the only thing I can tell that is different is the patch. They have an N patch on the hip, and then they've got the Big Ten and the Adidas patches up on the chest. Other than that, it looks basically exactly the same.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's about 20 times smaller than the ones that those guys wore.
Yes, it did.
And that, like, the ones that
there's no loose articles of clothing.
Keith Jones was wearing a 9XL to fit over his pads, and he was not that big of a guy in that game.
Yeah,
So.
you know, I prefer red jersey, white pants, right? But if this is the shiny object that keeps the kids happy, okay, fine. And I definitely prefer this to the November 1st unis.
Ooh, wow. Shots fired.
Oh, the all black?
Yeah,
I agree.
School colors are red and white. Wear red.
Oh, my gosh. Okay. Listen, I like that they're finally the entire weird aughts. Let's jazz everything up and make it look like there's duct tape on these and tire tracks. And they're using the template for the uniform for these red ones and the black, but they're just adjusting the colors. That's what I wanted to see forever. I'm so glad all these things are finally happening that I've wanted for so long. It's
Jack
so exciting.
Mitchell,
What a time!
Director of football.
What a time to be a fan.
Operations.
What a time to be a fan. Next on the list for the morning drive, if you had the call, I'm putting you guys in the coach's seat or on the coach's headset. If you had the call, how much do you have to be ahead, and what time in the game do you have to pull Dylan Raiola out for the day? And then same question for Emmett Johnson. John, you go. You're instructing your positional coach. He goes out at what time?
Personally, I would make Emmett Johnson a healthy scratch for this game. If it
You
were
wouldn't
me,
even play it.
I wouldn't even play him. Seriously. I mean, he's going to be too important to the rest of it. You've got to develop those backups. You've got to find somebody because, I mean, I was going back through my mental Rolodex. There's not a lot of years where Nebraska didn't lose its number one running back for at least a chunk of a game or a full game. It just doesn't happen. It's a physical position. It's a tough position. So personally, I would make Emmett a healthy scratch. I know that's not going to happen. I would like to see less than 10 touches if that's possible. As far as Dylan's concerned, to me, it's kind of like, now, if we get another, 2000 Baylor game where they're putting up 38 points in the first quarter, you could certainly consider making, a move before halftime. But it's totally acceptable for me if Nebraska's got a comfortable lead. I don't really have a number in mind, but maybe allow one drive in the third quarter and then shut her down for the rest of the game.
Yeah, I'm not quite as aggressive in sitting Emmett Johnson as John, but it would be, I think in my eyes, a strict 3 or 4 running back rotation where Emmett gets the first series and then it's Quentin Ives or Mosey or Mekhi Nelson, but a 3 or 4 man rotation. He rotates in maybe a drive a quarter for the first 2 quarters, maybe 3 drives at most, and he's done. As for Dylan, I think the two sort of benchmarks I would have in mind are up by 35 or first drive of the third quarter. He especially if he's not getting hit. If they're just pinning their ears back and going nuts on him, I'd probably get him out of there earlier unless the game's close. And God, I hope it's not. But
I'm torn on Emmett because in principle I agree with John, but I also don't mind. This is me being kind of like if I were a video game coach, but like I kind of want him to get 100 yards, you know.
You want the stats.
I kind of want to like why if you're a coach you probably shouldn't be thinking about that, but I do kind of want him to get 100 yards and I want him to I also think he's been I just for kind of for him, right? For him and maybe get a couple of touchdowns. But if he hits 100 yards and has got a touchdown and they are up by 3 scores or more at that point, I think I'd probably do. But I think what I'd probably do is I would give him just do the first 2 drives as you would normally. Okay. And there's probably maybe even some primarily him, maybe some substitution based on formation, whatever they regularly do. If they score on both of those drives and this looks like things are comfortable, I would give the third drive then to whoever your number 2 is primarily.
Right.
And then let the primary, and then if the game continues to progress like that, then just use the other guys as your primary. Because I think, John, I think you guys both have a good point too. It's not just about getting him rest. It is about getting those guys, those other 3 guys in particular. Correct. They got a lot of receptions. They didn't get a ton of carries in the last game.
Yeah, Mosey didn't even line up as a running back last week. But they also had Quentin Ives back, so that helped. Right. But I would certainly like to see a lot more of Quentin Ives because he is probably right now your most likely candidate to be that number 2 guy for the majority of the season. So seeing more of him during, game crunch situations, I think is important.
And he's the kind of the biggest change up size wise.
He's the biggest difference. Yeah.
All right. Number 3. I guess that guy says it, not me. Well, we already talked about it a little bit, but here's what Matt Rule said at halftime. I'm going to play it on my computer here, Nate, of the Akron game. It got a lot of attention this week. If I can get it to play here. Would, of course. Oh, here we go. We got to press that unmute button. Here's what Matt Rule said at halftime last week.
They don't respect you enough yet. And if that sounds like coach speak, then you have the wrong brain. They're dropping back against our starting defense. They're cutting our own line at the end of the half. I told you I don't care what the score is. I told you I care what the tape looks like. You have one half. If they try to drop back and throw it, and that quarterback's not on the ground, I want new guys in there rushing.
Yeah.
I want them hit. I want them never to say our name again. That's the killer instinct I asked about. Not what does my hair look like? What do I look like in the freaking mirror? I walk in here, guys in the mirror checking themselves out. Got a chance at a shutout. You guys got a chance of freaking hanging a score around here we haven't hung in a long time. We don't work hard enough to go take what we want. Go take what you want. You want to get in the game? Now you got a chance to get in the game, mate. If your brother and your brothers will put them away. It's about time people say, I don't want to schedule those guys anymore. I don't want to play those guys anymore. And if my standard's too high, then leave. And if you're with me, go out there and do not, I don't want to see smile. I don't want to see nothing silly. I want to see a bunch of guys locked in and want to make a team quit. Yeah. When you're shaking their hand at the end of the game, they better have that look in their eye. You did it to them. It's supposed to be 33-0.
Oh, baby.
Woo! I was really impressed with the way for a leaked video that Matt Rule was able to self-bleep himself. That was impressive. They just stopped right in the middle and just mouthed the word.
Whatever the PR, whatever the PR campaign is, whatever. I'm not going to touch that. That said, well, I can't touch it. It's a little hokey. But the speech itself, the content itself, I already said this before, and now that I listen to it again, I loved it even more. I love every part of it.
You know what?
I love it.
You know what the main theme of the speech was? You guys should be mad because they're trying. I mean, if you really think about it, that's what it is these guys are still trying. What? You haven't made them quit. John, so go out and make them quit.
What other way are you going to get pissed at this Akron team? Right. I don't know what else you can do.
Right.
It's a difficult motivational position. So you've almost got to gin something up.
Well, but think of all those great Osborne teams and what we heard about what they did. They broke their opponent's will. They made them want to quit. They gave up. They couldn't go on anymore, and that's what he's pushing.
The point, the key to this will be down the road when he doesn't need to do this.
Right.
Yeah.
When it just becomes ingrained. I mean, when we went back through your perfect games, I guarantee you, I mean, yes, there were a few times where Tom got really, really, they used to call it the red vein speech because, the vein would pop out of his head. But he didn't have to do that very much in those types of games because it was already ingrained in them.
Yeah.
And so it's at the point where Matt Rule doesn't have to do that that Nebraska's turned a corner.
Yeah, I think all of the things he said is where they need to be. I agree that if you're reasonably looking at it, I do not think it was offensive that Akron tried to score touchdowns in a game.
Right.
They were behind
but you
by
should be
4+
offended.
touchdowns.
They're trying.
As a fan, I did not sit on my couch when Akron did not take a knee. What were they going to do?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't care. That's fine. He convinced me that that's offensive, and that's great. Now I am offended by it. I didn't think I needed to be, but I kind of am now. Use jerks. Nobody uses rubber for anything anymore anyways.
Right.
What are you even doing, Akron?
Yeah.
Who cares?
You think of all the dumb things that teams do to gin up motivation. I mean, you think back on The Last Dance, and Michael Jordan used the fact that a guy said, "Hey, Mike," instead of "Hi, Michael," to get him fired up for a game.
Right.
Or he even made up like a guy said something to him at a game to get him fired up. Like, this is perfectly fine.
Right. And and I said this at the beginning, so I won't harp on it because I could get myself going on this again. But I loved what I didn't hear from him. You know what I didn't hear from him?
The fans think you're playing.
Those fans out there don't believe in you.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
This media, let's shut the media up in this who's talking poorly about you. Let's show them. No, it was about let's show the opponents and let's make them not want to come here. Thank you, Matt Rule. Thank you for putting motivation in not only the right place and the respectful place to this fan base and the people who cover this team and all of those things, but also not using a method that's inherently flawed that multiple coaches have used before.
Getting fired up again.
I just the us against the world when the world
he said he
is
wasn't going to fire.
State
he's getting
is
fired
a
up again.
garbage way to motivate, and I'm so tired of it. I'm so glad
said he wasn't getting.
We have a coach that doesn't do that crap anymore.
We can help, not hurt.
Number two.
While these games the last 2 weeks aren't going to get any national attention or probably big TV, hopefully good radio ratings, though, how do you feel about this non-conference setup, kind of the way this schedule has broken out? And would you recommend, guys, something kind of similar in how this season setup make you feel about non-conference schedules in kind of the playoff era?
Allow me to get on my soapbox.
Oh, boy.
These games should be outlawed. FBS versus FCS games should never happen.
I agree.
Ever happen. And I know and I think even Matt Rule talked about it this week. Well, these programs, they need that money from us. When are we running a charity? Why are we running a charity here for teams outside of the state? If you want to pay someone $1 million to come in here and take a beating, pay UNK, pay Wayne State, pay Shadron State. I don't care. Personally, I don't want to see that. But I find the argument about, we need to keep those other programs afloat. That's not the reason that's being done. It's being done so you can get an automatic win and, get your backups in. But personally, as a fan, I hate watching these games. I really do. I don't watch any other team play FCS opponents unless they're losing. I don't want to see this one either. It's just, I'm not a fan of it. That said, everybody's doing it. And until, we can get people to actually hold folks to a higher standard and not schedule these games anymore, we're going to be stuck.
If Bill Snyder jumped off a cliff, would you jump off a cliff?
Maybe.
That's a great point.
No.
Hold yourself to a higher standard. I'm not saying you have to go out and schedule 4 Power 4 opponents, but do not punch out of your weight class. This is the equivalent of the Rams taking on Middle Tennessee State, not the Tennessee Titans.
This is where the lack of a central body to run and operate college football really hurts. Because, I look at it like Matt Rule looks at it. It doesn't hurt our national championship chances and kind of helps them if we play a lesser non-conference schedule. There is no mechanism that forces teams to take on greater non-conference challenges than this. So if you're not going to be rewarded for it and you're not going to be penalized for it, why not do it? I don't like it. I'm with John in wishing these games would be banned, and when the eventual schism happens between Power 4 FBS football and Group of 5 FBS football, hey, I want Power 4 versus Power 4, all three non-con games. I don't think it's going to happen, but it's just being realistic that the other teams, the Power or the Group of 5, can't compete at the FBS level usually. And the FCS, forget it. So I don't mind that Nebraska is doing it because everyone else is, but I wish there were some greater governing body that would say, look, this is terrible. Let's move on.
I'm not quite all on board with you guys. I'm not disagreeing. I'm not quite all on board with you guys. I will say this, like when they got rid of that Tennessee game, that frustrated me, right? When they're making so that frustrated me. That said, a couple of things mitigate it here. Number one, as a fan of somebody looking forward to this game, and this is probably just a function of where Nebraska's been, but I really enjoyed last weekend.
Yeah.
I kind of want to do it again this weekend. I'm not tired of this yet. Now, if Nebraska were doing this every year and having and desperate for a good game like I maybe was at a different time in my life, I might feel differently. The other thing is I think FCS is closer to FBS than it was when this first started.
You might be right.
Years ago.
Well, but not to the Big Ten and the SEC, they're not.
I think
And
just
that distance will grow.
in general though, I would say
There are certainly some schools in the FCS that can come up and win.
The high end of the
but-
FCS is definitely closer. I mean, the high end of the FCS is better than a lot of the Power 4 schools.
But keep in mind, the scholarship,
schools.
that's the part that gets me is you've got teams with 85 scholarships taking on teams with 60.
I watched South Dakota State almost beat Deion Sanders in the Heisman winner last year. So,
sure.
Right. In any case. All right, moving on and finishing. Or was that North Dakota State?
North Dakota State.
NDSU.
Sorry, that's probably offensive.
Number one.
People from South Dakota, I wouldn't know. We'd be live a little bit already, even if the players and the coaches need to focus on this week. Probably unlikely the perception of either team will change significantly after this week. So let's start the hype now. How do you feel about Nebraska's chances going into next week against the Wolverines? Preview, early thoughts on this.
It's going to be interesting to see how Michigan responds from last week. I don't know how many of you actually saw that game against Oklahoma, but it was, in my opinion, it was not as close as the score indicated. Oklahoma turned it over a couple of times and gave Michigan a short field. Oklahoma stuffed the Michigan running game, save for one long touchdown run. They made Underwood look pretty pedestrian. They did not give him a lot of time to throw. I will be curious to see how Michigan responds this week against an in-state rival. What are they playing? The Western or Central Michigan?
Central
Michigan. And
the
if
one
there's
that Connor Stallions was on the sideline with.
And remember, this is the first of two games without Sharon Moore as head coach. So now you got the Biff Poggi experience. So I have been long on record since June. Nebraska's winning this game by 2 scores. I'm not backing down now.
I'm not quite there. I like Nebraska's chances for everything that John laid out.
I think Nebraska's going to be favored by Vegas going into that. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah,
we talked to a Vegas expert yesterday. Right now, he would make Michigan a skinny, like a 1 or 2 point favorite, but he would not be surprised if Nebraska was the favorite next week.
Wow. All right, we'll take a break. 7:56. That's it. Insurance and Wealth Management on KLIN.
Radio home of Husker football, men's basketball and baseball, with a little volleyball, women's basketball and softball thrown in. 1499.3 KLIN. Here's today's
snap, fade route, back run to the end zone. Touchdown, Huskers! Isaiah Hunter for the Husker touchdown.
Who do you think you're fooling? Nobody's thinking about their job the day before a Husker game.
Pedals the throw, blitz picked up. Harris went out deep right sideline. 50-50 ball. It's picked off. The black shirts with the dagger. Malcolm Hartzog with a giant pick. Sails the night for the Big Red. Drifts back to throw, dumps it to an underneath crosser. Goody made the catch, got popped. Ball's loose, but they say incomplete.
This is the Friday Husker Tailgate with Jack Mitchell, Nate Rohr, John Bishop, and Kevin Suits on Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3 KLI. Your foe will introduce you, but we can't guarantee you'll get along. It's the Friday Husker Tailgate Opposition Disposition on Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3 KLIN.
It's the third hour of the Friday Husker Tailgate on 1499.3 KLIN.
What do we get there, John?
13. Actually, about 12.8.
Okay.
That is
My finger wasn't all the way extended.
hand timed, not electronically timed.
We'll go
Also-
literally hand timed.
Also wind aided as well.
Yes, very wind-aided per
Keep that in
usual with
mind
me.
for the record books. Welcome back to the third hour of the Friday Husker Tailgate. And as always, during the third hour, we become a full team and are joined by 1011 Sports Director Kevin Suits. Kevin, welcome.
I feel like I'm the hockey guy that just got kicked out of the sides and said, get on the ice and go.
We got him in the penalty box the whole time. It was
Yep.
it was a major for high sticking, and he's just opened
We
up.
kind of
with the
locked
beginning.
away for a while, and then the big
Right.
crescendo with Nate yelling third down, and now all of a sudden, boom!
We penalty killed for 2 hours, and now
Go
we're back at
check, get us the puck, and get us on the board
exactly.
here.
Exactly. How are you doing, Kevin? How's
I'm doing well,
everything
yeah.
going? How's the mood over at 1011 with the Shimmick news here coming down here a couple of weeks ago? You guys got a few weeks to kind of let this whole thing set in.
We got a month.
This is like a victory tour here for a month now.
Yeah,
Yes?
I'll be honest. I'm still in denial. I really don't. I don't know what a workplace at 1011 looks like without Ken being there.
Yeah.
And I not only say that from what he provides on air, but just as a friend and as a colleague. He's a tremendous coworker and a really good friend. Ken's my guy. If I have something that happened overnight or over the weekend and I want to share with somebody, what my kids did in their sporting activities or what my wife and I ate for Sunday dinner or whatever, Ken's my go-to.
Yeah.
And I'm just so incredibly happy that he's going to be able to retire in good health and in good spirits. And he's looking forward to the time that he's going to get to, spend with his wife. And he's going to play a lot of golf.
Bad golf, he said. He said bad.
He is sandbagging.
Whoa, really? Okay.
He's a good golfer.
All right. That's interesting.
And he is going to visit a lot of courses across the area and state, and who knows how far, because he's going to golf a lot in retirement. He's going to golf with Deb, and they love to do. I've told you guys the story before that, that's his favorite, to bring this into the Friday Husker Tailgate element.
There we go.
That's his favorite Nebraska game day tradition: golf while the Huskers are playing.
Oh, really?
Oh,
Because
yeah.
it's easy to get on the course?
Oh, yeah.
I suppose.
He DVRs the game, or maybe even hits record on the VCR. I don't know where Ken stands technologically, but he golfs while Nebraska is playing and then exits the course without going back in the clubhouse, goes home.
Oh, wait, he doesn't find out?
Correct.
Wow.
So he goes spoiler free. Wow, I'm impressed.
Yes.
Else to do.
It's
Because I
always
did this once last year and it was hard.
no. That's like he's got it down to a science. He does not watch
No
Nebraska
phone,
football games
no
live.
alerts.
Nope.
Not even now that they're on 10-11 again, huh?
Wow. That's an
He
interesting.
shuts it down, just enjoys nature and the golf course, and they get home and turn on the TV at like 6 o'clock as if it's 2:30.
I wasn't even able to do that pre-internet because 1995, the first game of the year, Lincoln East had a high school football game against Omaha Bryan on a Thursday night, same night as Nebraska opened up with Oklahoma State that year. And of course, the Spartans need me on the sideline to be cheering them on, maybe on the field occasionally, mostly on the sideline. But we were going to have a bunch of the guys over. order pizza afterwards, watch the VHS of it. And then I don't know who it was at the time, but whoever was the Seacrest PA that night decided that everyone needed score updates throughout the night. And here I am on the sideline putting my hands over my helmet holes, trying not to hear the score updates during the game, and they were up. That was Lawrence Phillips went crazy that night. So in any case, I couldn't even do that then.
Yeah, it's like one time I was I was out at one of the youth baseball tournaments or whatever, and I ran across a friend of mine whose son was playing on a different team, and I just walked up to him on a Sunday afternoon and I go, "How about Tiger Woods?" And he just stared at me like, "No, you didn't."
Was this like when he came back and won the Masters?
Yes.
I was at a baseball game that day too. Yeah,
it was that day, and so everybody on that team and all the other parents, like as I just walked up, and instead of the "Hey, how you doing?" I went with, "How about Tiger Woods?"
Man.
And everybody looked at me like, "We've kept it from him all day." I had no idea. I had no context.
Sure. That's rough.
I felt terrible, but then we all joked about it.
That's a big commitment, by the way, to watch the entirety of the last round of the Masters.
Yeah,
on
no
tape.
kidding. He was probably going to sit down with the pimento cheese sandwich and everything.
Now it's ruined.
My story like that, 1999, it was the state band competition, and that year it was at Memorial Stadium. I was a freshman in high school, and the Texas game was coming down to the final minutes. And for some reason, for where we were in Memorial Stadium, I couldn't hear the PA guy. But apparently, just before we were going to march out, the PA guy gave the score. I didn't know it, and nobody in the band would tell me, because they knew if I knew that Nebraska had lost to Texas, I would have been even worse than I was that day.
Oh, man.
And in 2025, this is really, really hard, because if you have certain apps, you're getting the push notifications.
Oh, right.
Yep.
So you have to
shut
your
phone
phone away, because even if you're watching on, one of the streaming, if you're a YouTube TV subscriber or you're using Roku, whatever, like if you're watching games there, sometimes you might be 30 seconds behind. And in that 30 seconds, you may get a push notification, which says the final score.
Correct.
I mean, I've had multiple games, professional games that I'm watching, and I'm like, what? No, there was 10 seconds left. I wanted to see how that ended.
I get texts from my friends who are, because YouTube TV always seems to be behind everyone else, and I'll get, you're in group texting about the game the entire time, and they'll get either exclamation of joy or madness, and I know that something good or bad is happening. I hate that, and I've been so conditioned by that. Here's the hilarious thing. Like, I was in Kansas City. I was at the game, sitting up in the third level, and I was going to look at my phone before I play, and I was like, "Oh, but I don't want any spoilers." And then I realized, wait, I'm in person. I am watching the livest version of this.
Exactly. You cannot be spoiled
right now. Yes. But I actually had that thought for a moment.
And sometimes you get yourself in trouble. I don't know if you guys are like me, that if have something on the grill, the smoker, or I'm working in the kitchen, if there's a baseball game on in the background, I'm really kind of like, I want to know what's happening. I'll pause.
Yeah,
and so sometimes when you pause and you think you're caught up, you're actually not caught up. You're maybe a batter behind in a baseball game, or you're a couple of plays behind in a football game. And so though your mind, and you think on the status bar at the bottom of the television
that
screen,
you're caught up,
that you're live, frankly, you're not.
Yes.
For a variety of reasons, and that can just be the giant buzzkill.
I want to I talked about this. I want to invent an app that basically puts a delay on the entirety of your phone. Your phone lives 1 minute in the past.
Well, why don't you just turn your notifications off?
Yeah,
it's just I don't want to mess with all
I don't
that.
need a notification telling me the Cubs are on. I know the Cubs are on.
I know. Right. It's just I don't want to get into the back end and mess with all that stuff.
That's not that hard.
You got to screw off the back of the phone and get into the circuit.
You don't have to hook up jumper cables. What are you talking about?
I don't want to do that. All right, let's talk about, first of all, let's take a listen to John's historic clips. John often supplies us with some really good pertinent, whether it's about the opponent or maybe what happened the week before, the week coming up, or the situation. And I like where you went this week with yours, John, and the clips. Tell us what you have for us.
Well, I'm going back just 6 days.
Yes. Yes.
To start, because we got to set up. This was last week, Dylan to Quinn Clark.
Here's what that sounded like.
Off a play fake, deep drop, slings one over the middle, caught, and an end cut between the hash marks. 10-5, touchdown, Quinn Clark. Caught it over the middle.
took it to the house. Fireworks blare. All Huskers here in the first half.
Now, what we couldn't see up in the press box, I wasn't watching the TV broadcast, was that Quinn threw up the 3-2 for his father.
So cool.
Ken Clark, who, of course, played here back in the 80s. So I did a little digging.
Nice.
I said, well, when was Ken Clark's first touchdown? And irony of ironies, even though he was an I-back, his first touchdown, which was scored in this game, 1987, at Memorial Stadium against UCLA, was also a pass reception.
Ooh. Blitz is on. Taylor picks it up. Fires. Touchdown, Nebraska. Kenny Clark.
Now, that was the TV call, obviously. I didn't have access to Kent's audio. But, yeah, his first catch, and it was a nice catch, too. He was kind of near the ground, rolling on the ground. But that was Ken Clark's first ever touchdown.
Steve Taylor set some kind of a record for passing.
I think he threw, was it 5
TDs
in that game?
It was crazy.
Yes.
That was my third game ever. That was my next game after the all-red game, was that game in 1987.
But I thought, you know what? Kenny is more famous for what he did against Oklahoma State. The following year, this is Kent Pavelka.
What a game.
Wide to the right goes Morgan Gregory. Tight slot right is Richard Bell. Ken Clark, the I-back. And the fullback is Brian Carpenter. Steve Taylor looks at a 5-man Cowboy front, takes the snap, hands it off to Clark, cuts back left side, 30, 32, 33, 35, broke it, out across the 40, 45, he may go, 50, 45, 40, first place in scrimmage, 25, 20, 15, 10, touchdown, touchdown, touchdown!
Oh, my gosh.
KB, give it to us.
The goosebumps on my arm right now. You can see them. Look at that.
Yeah, it's a legendary game. That was the 63-42 game where Ken Clark outdueled Barry Sanders, who would go on to win the Heisman Trophy that year. But it's such a Quinn's story is such a cool story. Yeah. You know, he loses his father, but he's playing up there in Montana, and you know, not a lot of people know about him. And does he play good enough competition? And you get some former Huskers that tell Matt Rule, "Hey, you got to watch this tape. You got to see this kid." And comes in for a camp, gets the offer. Just a special story, and it's really cool to see these second generation Huskers, especially if Ken was one of the most underrated running backs in Nebraska history. He kind of fell in that weird zone where he was like post Rozier, post DeBose, Amon Green, Phillips, and all that. But
even pre-Calvin Jones.
Pre-Calvin Jones.
Yeah.
But he had 2 all-conference seasons. He was a great, durable running back and played for some really good teams. So really cool for Quinn, and it's glad that we can remember his dad today.
My gosh.
Too.
I saw that picture with it. I didn't notice the fingers thing till
I didn't
picture
either,
afterwards, and but goosebumps then too.
Jack, I'll say that
awesome.
like when he threw up the 32, I was this far from me to you.
Yeah.
I was I was on the field with the camera, and it was right in front of me.
It was perfect,
and I caught it right away.
That's what I saw. I
saw the 3-2, and I go, "Oh my goodness!" Like, yeah.
Did you realize what it was in the moment?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And here's the other thing too. So we did a feature on Quinn Clark and went back in the archives during our In Report preseason show, and Chase Madison sat down with Quinn. Chase said before the game last Saturday, Quinn's going to score a touchdown. And so, like, that was kind of always on our radar. We knew Nebraska was going to score a ton of points, and there were going to be multiple guys getting in the end zone. And Chase said, my guy's going to score. And so my first thought is, Quinn Clark's going to score. And then the 3-2 happened, and it was just wow, that is some special stuff right there.
It was so cool. And for me, that's the era I remember of going games with my dad too, as we talked about earlier, like those 86, 87, those are the first games I ever went to, and I went to with my dad and watched Ken Clark. And it's so interesting because we were just talking earlier, you've got Neil Smith's son on that wide receiver core as well. And these are guys who obviously had kids later in their life because their kids are the same age as mine, but they're 10 years older than me. So I always kind of remember, these are these guys' kids. And so it's so cool. And then just as a player, by the way, first of all, he did a great job on that. He avoided a tackle. If you watch it, Kevin, you probably had a great angle of it.
He's a good player. The fact that Nebraska upgraded the way it did with the transfers in the wide receiver room, Quinn kind of gets lost in the shuffle. But if you watch him, like during pregame warmups, I'll encourage anybody listening right now, if you're in your seats early to watch Nebraska warm up, find Quinn Clark on the field and watch him. Like, he's got great body control. He's long. And, we've talked about, if Nebraska needs to high point the football in the end zone, who gets it? Yeah. I think Quinn Clark's probably the guy. He's a pretty talented and still fairly young receiver.
Well, it's perfect how this is set up because you've got two guys who had previous Division I experience in Hunter and Key that you've got that can be like the old school guys, and obviously you have Ja'Cory as well. But then you got this group of young players who have a chance to get playing time like they did last week, be a part of the game. Remember, Quinn had a catch against Cincinnati as well. So he's already been involved in the offense, but he's got time to grow. This is the developmental program that Matt Rule has been talking about.
It did feel, and I think we talked about this after week 1, that you feel like you've got more depth and you're more solid, especially on that front line of wide receivers than you've been for a while. And it's looked that way so far. We'll see if that continues. But what I always kind of wondered is, man, it feels like there's a body type and a player type that's missing out there in that wide receiver group that you could add that isn't Danke, that isn't Hunter, that definitely isn't Ja'Cory Barney. And I think Quinn Clark is that guy. He's the tallest, I think, the entire wide receiver core. You could see it, long strides, 6'5", 210. And so he's one of the bigger guys. Jeremiah Jones is pretty big like that in the same way. And I think Keelan Smith, it might be right below those guys. All those younger guys are a little bigger than the existing. And it feels like that is going to be an important addition. One of those guys, and it might be Quinn Clark, and it might be multiple of them, I think are going to end up being significant contributors just because there's such a change up from the rest of the wide receiver.
And Quinn is a super nice kid too.
Oh yeah.
Not that scores you touchdowns or does anything on the stat sheet, but having interacted with him, he is just so kind and so humble and very respectful too. I've become an instant fan of Quinn Clark.
How many former Huskers from Montana, Bishop and Nate and Kevin?
Mark Gilman was from Kalispell, I think.
He was Wyoming, I think.
Was he?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't remember any Montana.
Let's see. Oh man, I want to. But if you have an actual town, you're probably right, and I'm wrong. I feel like Mark Gilman was Wyoming, but maybe he was Montana. But I'm trying to think. I can't come up with.
I can't come up with.
There's been a transfer from Montana recently, but nobody like.
Oh, the wide receiver.
Samori Toure.
Yeah, Toure. Yeah, that's true.
But not actually.
Not grown up in.
He wasn't
Montana.
actually from there. So looks like Nate is efforting the Mark Gilman information there, which we can work on. Mark Gilman with the touchdown. Matt Shaw, touchdown. Mark Gilman with the touchdown. Sorry. Shout out Ken Pavelka's call from the Orange Bowl, and shout out Matt Shaw for having a touchdown for 2 seconds.
For 2 seconds until he realized, nope, it's Gilman.
In the Orange Bowl. But he's still done pretty well for himself, even though all of that. So real quick, Houston Christian. As we've talked about, FCS team. Originally Houston Baptist, founded November 15th, 1960 by the Baptist General Convention of Texas with the goal of establishing a Christian college in Houston. They initiated the project in 1952. 1956, the Baptist General Convention of Texas pledged the support if the association acquired a 100-acre site and a $3 million corpus. And so they secured it in 1958. The Board of Trustees was elected in 1960. And then they got going in 1963 with 193 freshmen, became a full 4-year program in 1966, 1967. Notable alumni. Now, Bishop gave me one of these at the outset, and it shocked me, and I don't know that I found any other one that I had heard of that was not a football athlete. Bishop, since you were the first one who came up with this,
I asked Kevin, I told Kevin, you're going to be surprised by this, and I said ex-golfer.
Which surprised me. It was athletic. I thought you guys were going to hit us with a senator or a presidential nominee.
It's not even it's not just an ex-golfer. It's an ex-golfer from across the pond.
Oh.
Yeah.
Do you remember Colin Montgomery?
Oh my.
Oh, yeah.
Monty
was a Houston Baptist Husky.
Wow.
Yes. I didn't really read much into why, but he was.
Yeah,
he's one of the bigger personalities on the tour.
He was.
He was like the bad guy in golf.
People like to root against him.
He was kind of whiny, if I remember right. And
well, he is a Husky, so maybe he'll be at the game on Saturday.
Yeah, I'm sure he's really invested in HCU football.
I always like to cheer against him in the.
I always did.
In the
never liked him.
Yeah, in the Ryder Cup and those sorts
and
of
the
things.
British,
Yeah, for sure. I think you were right on Montana, by the way, Nate.
Yeah,
it looks like you were. I was wrong.
Kalispell, Montana. There are 4 different letter winners from the state of Montana.
Was Steve Buscemi one too?
Yeah, Steve Buscemi, Brian Buschini. Man. Yeah, of course he went to Montana State or Montana? Or no.
Was he originally from Montana, though?
Well, but he was from Montana, yes.
Right.
There are 4 letter winners from Montana. Of course, Quinn Clark will be the 5th.
Nice.
Okay.
So there you go.
Was there anyone else that we've heard of? Do you have anybody else on there?
The other 2 were pretty obscure.
Okay. All right. So nobody that we would necessarily know of.
Some guy from the 50s. Bless him.
Those of you who have studied Houston Christian, I know they're 1-1. They had a blowout win in their first game, and then they lost to another FCS team in their second game. Guys, I don't have a whole scouting report on them, so if any of you have anything to add, please go ahead and do that.
Well, they will run the ball. They've got a little 1-2 punch at running back. I can't remember the second kid's name, but it's kind of like a lightning and thunder type deal where one guy is more of the speed guy, the other guy's more of the thumper.
Edwards is one of them. He's got 4 touchdowns this year.
The smaller one.
And so they've averaged over 200 yards on the ground. You heard the clip from Nate a couple of hours ago. Matt Rule, they've only allowed 1 third down conversion this year, so they've been pretty salty on defense. But you know, again, it's an FCS team, so Nebraska should be able to get some work done. It will be, I think it'll be as good as it can be. It will be good prep for Michigan because Michigan's going to try to run the ball and probably use some of the same techniques, some of the same formations and whatnot. So we'll see. But that's all I have on Houston.
I have watched a little bit of film on them, like a nerd that I am.
Oh, bless you,
Nebraska is just going to manhandle these guys up front.
Yeah.
You know, I think some of the skill players are going to be good in the FCS, but I feel like
it is Texas. I mean, they've got a lot of good players down there, and they can't all go to UT.
And one of the connections here is Matt Rule shared that they've worked camps down there, and that's where they've gotten to know some of the coaches on Houston Christian's staff. So the connection that he has and his assistants have with the HCU staff, that's where it goes back to, is some of the camps that they've gone down to Texas and worked. But look, comparing team A to team B, one is far superior, and the biggest gap between the 2 squads, I believe, is up front.
Yeah.
How about this? They are they've held opponents to 1 for 31 on third downs.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
something to keep an eye on.
3%, 3.2%, I believe.
Not bad.
Yeah. I mean, that's good against whom, but that's good.
Yeah, that will be interesting. If you I'm trying to find my list here. Bill Connolly does the SB Plus where he rates all of
every football playing college,
all the way down through NAIA and everything else. And in his latest rankings, he has got, let's see if I can find them again here now. They're over here somewhere. Houston Christian was in the 230s, if I recall correctly here. And Akron was about 80 or so spots ahead of them in this, just to give you kind of an idea of the comparison. Houston Christian closer to Dort in Iowa.
I was just going to ask, like, where do they compare to some of the good D2 teams?
There I found them.
In Morningside.
232. So Dort is 270.
Okay.
Let's see. Any Morningside? There's Morningside 232. Or excuse me, 332. So exactly 100 spots lower. Exactly 100 spots lower. Northwestern Iowa, my alma mater, 5 spots below them. Northwestern might upset Houston Christian, depending on if Jalen Gramsted's playing for them in Nebraska. you know, I mean, I guess depends.
Send him back for a game so we can see.
Like a loaner, like they do in soccer, right? Yeah. He's on loan from Nebraska.
How heartbroken were you that Jalen didn't get a touchdown pass?
He's getting. That is my hope for this.
Is that your bold prediction? Is that Jalen will throw a touchdown?
Scores, because this may be his last shot to do that, to either throw or run a touchdown. And I really hope that happens. And hopefully, I don't think Matt Rule is going to call off the dogs, from what I can tell.
I'm going to disagree with
really
that because of the relationship that they have with the HCU staff. I think Akron really got under Nebraska.
Where's that guy from halftime last week? Where did he go?
But maybe the nice hat gets put back on Matt Rule's head. You know, I don't see HCU cutting the offensive line right before halftime. You know, maybe Nebraska gets a sizable enough lead at the break that they do just kind of coast through the second half.
Don't be Mr. Nice Guy now when Jalen's got to get a touchdown. Now's not the time when we get the first ever Northwestern College University of Nebraska. Very few people are in that fraternity. Jalen, me, and a couple other people. My parents And that's about it. So let's get that for us, for all of us Raiders and Huskers. All right, let's take a break. 8:32, we'll take another look at this game of the roundtable. That's coming up next. This is the Friday Husker Tailgate on KLIN.
Peacocks belong in the zoo, not your billing statement. Every Husker game is free on Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3 KLIN.
Care and compassion you need. The Pemberley Place Senior Living Campus in Lincoln provides quality continuum of care with independent living, assisted living, and memory care. Apartments are available. Visit PemberleyPlace.com, an MJ Senior Living community.
This is your year, where your team takes it all the way. Win way more than bragging rights at Warhorse Casino, where your love of the game could put $1 million in your pocket. The Pro Football Frenzy is free to play with prizes all season long. Weekly cash prizes up to $1,000 cash, season-long leaderboards, and a chance to win $1 million. Only at Warhorse Casino. Wagers may only be placed on Nebraska-based teams when played outside the state of Nebraska. Must be 21 or older to gamble. Gambling problem? Call 1-833-BET-OVER.
John Henry's does more than plumbing and HVAC. We're your go-to team for electrical too. From flickering lights and faulty outlets to panel upgrades and generators, our licensed electricians do it all. Whether it's a quick fix or a full home project, we've got your back. Proudly serving homes across Lincoln, Omaha, and surrounding areas, and ready 24/7. Visit calljh.com or call John Henry's.
435-5555. John Henry's Plumbing, Heating
and Electrical.
Senior Helpers of Southeast Nebraska leads in providing in-home senior care. They go beyond standard care with specialized training, advanced tools, and a personal commitment to each client's well-being. They offer a fixed rate and do not require minimum hours. Your loved ones need and deserve specialized, compassionate care. This is Senior Helpers of Southeast Nebraska. Their exclusive life profile assessment is free with no commitment or obligation. Find out more at seniorhelpers.com.
Momo Pizzeria and Ristorante presents Pooches on the Patio, Sunday, September 28th from noon to 4. Free entry, pet-friendly fun. The first 100 guests will receive a door prize. Enjoy live music from Beyond Bananas and pizza and brats available for purchase. Family-friendly activities include an appearance from the Paw Patrol and a silent auction. All proceeds benefit the Capital Humane Society. Make plans to attend this year's Pooches on the Patio event at Momo Pizzeria and Ristorante. Full details on Momo's Facebook page.
KLIN weather brought to you by Bryant Air Conditioning, Heating, Electrical, and Plumbing.
Mostly sunny skies expected as we head into our Friday afternoon, and it will be hot, breezy, and humid. Looking for a high right around 92 with the south wind gusting up to 30 miles per hour. Tonight, mostly clear, 68 the overnight low, and then 93 on Saturday with mostly sunny skies. And it will be humid. From the 1011 Severe Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Brett Anderson.
Welcome back to the Friday Husker Tailgate on Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3.
Welcome back, 8:36 for 12th, 2025. 71 degrees in the capital city. If you missed it earlier, we were taking a look at the hour-by-hour forecast kickoff. We are looking at about 80 degrees by the time you're filing out of the stadium. We probably will be in the low 90s at that point. And then the post-game party, we will get into low, maybe closer to the mid-90s. Heat index is not quite up to 100, but upper 90s tomorrow.
Moist.
So welcome back, summer. It's also going to be breezy. Do have a wind out of the south with gusts up at about 20 miles an hour, really for the entirety of the game. Could even get a little rain earlier in the morning, leading up to things as well. Now, I will tell you this: the good thing is that Our dew points, they're in the low 60s, low to mid 60s. So it's not going to be super humid out there. A little bit maybe, but shouldn't be too bad. But university said, hey, if you want to bring your sealed waters in, you can do that even. So they must be a little concerned at least about the heat for the game. So there you go. That is the forecast. Real quick, big shout out to our friends at Pork's Done Breakfast Burritos here in the studio today that the team is going to be digging into. So thanks for bringing those by today. Brisket breakfast burritos, which is a nice combination of words. That is very exciting to me. All right, let's talk a little bit about this game coming up. Kevin, we've been talking about it a lot already. And so I'm curious what you think. We've been talking about whether or not and how difficult it will be for Nebraska to kind of duplicate the near perfect game that they had against Akron, even if on paper this team does not even quite look as good as Akron. And maybe they might end up being better, to be honest. But how difficult do you think it'll be for Nebraska to kind of just do that mentally again?
I don't think it's going to be hard. Matt Rule says it's been an excellent week. This team is still young enough and they have enough guys that still need to prove themselves. Sometimes the trick with these games against a lower opponent, especially from the FCS, is matching energy, right? Nebraska is a superior team, so don't go down to your opponent. I think individually, though, each one of these guys are still trying to work their way onto the field, and they're trying to get better, and they're trying to, cement their spot as Nebraska launches into Big Ten play with Michigan next week. And I think that this team has a little bit of it, more of a maturity level than the previous 2 years under Matt Rule, that the guys are able to compartmentalize some of those things, some of the outside forces. And we've heard Matt Rule say time and time again, he doesn't care about the scoreboard. He doesn't care about the outside noise. It is about what his new phrase is. What does the tape say? And so basically that's saying you can't hide from one bad play and you will get exposed. And as much as those words maybe ring hollow for some fans, I think they're pretty insightful, because there's no doubt John Butler is rewinding every play and he's pointing out the safety in the corner and the outside backer and the 3 technique. And he's looking at that, and there will be either praise or criticism. So even if it is a 50-point game against Akron in the third quarter, he's going to call you out. So they are challenging these guys to not take a single play off. And they know that's what it's going to take to be successful for the duration of the season. So it's less about the opponent and it's more about the performance individually.
Yeah. Guys, what do you hope to accomplish, right? If you're the coach and the team here on this game, other than winning, obviously winning the game. But I wonder how they look at this coming off of Akron. It's another game on the schedule, but is it about, getting some depth in the game? Is it getting guys specific experience? Is I know they're going to say all the words about, hey, we got to perform in every game, but really, like, John, what do you think they're thinking about wanting to get out of this game, and how to use it, frankly, to prepare for the games that are coming up?
Well, we talked about it earlier. It's about setting your own standard and meeting that standard. It's not necessarily about the opponent. So it's whether or not you can take the lessons you learned from last week, where you did have the killer instinct, and go out and do it again. From a tactical standpoint, I think it's about developing, again, the backup running backs and trying to get some havoc plays. This is the defense that really has not generated a lot of pressure so far. It may be a situation where you may have to bring plus pressure this season, extra guys to get pressure on the quarterback, but you'd like to see some of that going into Big Ten play. So I think they're wanting to look at those things. And then it is about getting some backups in. It's about guys that, who are on the cusp of maybe being a starter or, pressuring for playing time, getting them on the field and getting them some extra experience, because you really aren't guaranteed any more of those games this year. I know Northwestern's not great, but it's still a Big Ten game. UCLA, not great, but it's on the road. You're not going to get many of these opportunities, especially in the stadium when you've got your entire roster and you don't have to worry about travel size.
I think there's one of 3 things. Sorry to jump in, Nate, real quick. Number 1, stay healthy.
Yeah.
I think that's like the biggest thing with this game. Number 2, stay on schedule. Can the offense methodically have some long sustained drives, especially because the bulletin board here for Matt Rule and his staff is, this is a defense that has allowed only 1 third down conversion all season. Yeah. So there's your challenge for your team.
There you go.
So stay on schedule. And third, continue to make big plays on special teams because they're going to be an X factor as the season wears on. We saw tremendous strides from the punt return unit and, the field goal operation so far this season. Can the special teams continue to, make steps forward? And if you do that, you continue to build your confidence with those units.
John mentioned it, that havoc plays. You want to see havoc plays from this defense, especially from the defensive line. This team's allowed 7 sacks, and they have only tried to throw the ball 66 times in 2 games. So this is your chance to eat, especially on that defensive line. So go and eat, or at least jam guys up, but try to get something done in the pass rush. And then, identify who's your second running back, because, the Emmett Johnson usage rate is not sustainable. They backed him off a little last week, but still had 14 carries and he still had a few catches as well. But who's going to be the second guy? Because he'll play. He's going to play a lot next week, and he'll play a lot moving forward. And then, just get everybody back into the locker room at 000s in the fourth quarter upright.
As we talked about earlier in the show, I'm not necessarily a fan of FBS versus FCS games or games that aren't great matches, but I still think that in the context of where this program is right now, I think these games are helpful. I think they are good. I think what has happened from starting with the Pinstripe Bowl up until where we are today, I think every result has been one that is going to be beneficial to Nebraska and where they are from a mental space. And whether people want to talk about it or not, the things that happened last year and the year before and the year before and the year before, because they're all different. They are all completely different what happened in those years. You won close games that maybe shouldn't have been as close as you wanted to, but you won them in the Pinstripe Bowl and against Cincinnati, as I talked about. And then you did this. You didn't do what you did against Northern Iowa last year, right? Or pick your overmatched foe that you put Louisiana Tech a couple of years ago.
Even Colorado second half last year.
Yes, any of those. You put your foot and you played a near perfect game against Akron, whoever the opponent was. I think the act of doing that has value. I think the muscle memory of doing that has value. And I think doing it one more time will reinforce that once again if they can do that. I think these 4 games, if they can pull that off, will be as beneficial results from a mental perspective as this program has seen in years. And I'm really looking forward to, if they can do it again here on Saturday, where that puts them going into Michigan. But we talked about this earlier. They very well could be favored in that game. I think they're going to go into that game with a level of confidence that we haven't seen this program have going into a big game. I think in other years there was hope, right? We've got the capability of doing this. At least as an outsider, and John, I know you think this way too. I think I'm probably going to go into it saying, Nebraska probably should win this game. Against Michigan.
Well, because there's been times where Nebraska's been on the precipice of a big stage. I think of some Ohio State games, for example. Where
College game day.
It was a lot of trying to talk yourself into it, but it wasn't actual confidence. You're right. This is a game where you can continue to reinforce the confidence that you have built. Even though, to a lot of outsiders, the Cincinnati game didn't look great, I still think the team came out of that knowing, we made some mistakes here and there, but we made plays when we had to.
It was mentally beneficial.
It was mentally beneficial. And then, of course, last week, a near perfect game. You put together another really good performance this week, and there's no reason why you can't think you can walk into that Michigan game and say, we're good enough. We can beat you.
Yeah. You know how many times Nebraska started 3-0 over the past 9 years?
I don't know even.
One time.
Wow.
One time.
Mike Riley. Is that right? 2016?
Last
after
year.
that one.
Last
year. Yeah. Okay.
Wow. Well, Nebraska's going for its first 4-game winning streak since I can't remember when. 2016.
So to illustrate or to just add on to the psychosis discussion you guys are having right here about the benefit of this game, don't just shoo it away because it's an FCS opponent. Like, there is so much to be gained from a mental standpoint by whooping up on an FCS opponent, because wins are wins. And if you win this one, you're 3-0 and you're halfway to bowl eligibility. And Michigan comes to town and you're in a pretty good mental spot. And if you think about non-conference play over the past 3 coaches, there's been a little bump in the road in non-conference, and that shakes the confidence.
Yeah. And you look at last year when they were 3-0. It's almost like so much emotional capital was spent in that first half against Colorado, which they played unbelievably. Things went right. And then you kind of remember the second half was just like kind of, and they won, right?
Yeah.
They
salted the game away.
They won and they salted it away. And then next week you had Northern Iowa come in. And you won 34-3, but that game did not feel like this game did last week.
Well, remember, Matt Rule said that the seeds for the Illinois loss were sown in that Northern Iowa game. So that's another reason why you need to come out and play crisp and clean this week. You can't just slough off and, win 44-3 and it's got to look good. It's got to look good on the tape so that guys like John Butler aren't having to pick apart different things and say, this is what's wrong. This is what's wrong, because those things do carry over. Those habits carry over. This is about games like this, as outmanned as they might be. It's still about keeping good habits.
If you listen closely to Matt Rule, a lot of times he gives the reason for a loss to the previous week. Think back to Minnesota, the season, his first ever game. He said he didn't have that team completely ready to play on the road was that a Friday night game, I believe? Thursday night. Like there wasn't a previous week, but he kind of attributed it to fall camp and the way that the coaching staff didn't quite get those guys mentally in a spot to know what they were up against from an atmosphere standpoint and playing on that stage. And if you think back to the Illinois game, yes, he said that was kind of premeditated, or not that's not the right word, but one of the root causes of it was the previous week. So this week is not just so much about Houston Christian, it's about Michigan, because what could happen on Saturday will have an impact on how Nebraska plays against the Wolverines.
Yeah, and assuming they take care of business and do something similar to what they did last week, you go into that Michigan game, and this is how I know what I just said, but as I think about it more, I'm more and more convinced of it. You go into that Michigan game with a mentality you have not had going into a big must-win game, I think, in a long time. Maybe you could say you went into the Colorado game with it last year, but I don't know.
But that was more a revenge thing, and there was a rivalry there, and there was some bitterness. There's not really bitterness with Michigan.
I have some.
Oh, I know, but I'm saying, but there's not like, background circumstances. The difference, Michigan is in your league. They are one of those programs, right? There's two of them in the league. It's Ohio State, it's Michigan. You haven't beaten either of those teams since 2012? Whenever the last time they beat Michigan.
14.
It's been a long time. It's been over a decade since you've beaten one of those two programs, and you've got an opportunity to do it next week.
Is College Game Day coming to Lincoln? Is that a legit thing?
What do we think? Have we looked at the schedule for next week?
If you're a fan of the team, you don't want it. You don't want one of those.
I like you there. Yeah.
Don't add more to the game. Just roll up and let these guys be in a good mental spot and have the confidence to win the game without all the fanfare. I mean, there's already going to be some with the 95 team coming back to celebrate the anniversary of their national championship. But besides that, just let the game be the game. I think the more stuff that gets added into next week's contest, the more it could affect this team. And they're still a relatively young team. So you might not want to have, everything surrounding what will be Nebraska's biggest home game of the season.
Guys, I'm not so sure it isn't even right now, it doesn't even look like the biggest Big Ten game. You've got Illinois and Indiana. Illinois' top 10.
That's a possibility.
Indiana. You've got South Carolina, Mizzou.
South Carolina, Mizzou,
which is not great, but they're both ranked.
They're both ranked.
SEC.
Auburn, Oklahoma would be more likely.
Auburn, Oklahoma, but do they want to go back to Oklahoma second time in 3 weeks? Yeah. And do they want Michigan for the second time in 3
Florida
weeks?
At Miami? I mean,
Florida's kind of taking on water. Yeah. Texas Tech at Utah's ranked, though that's. But right now, just kind of looking at it on paper. I don't know that Nebraska and Michigan ranks in the top 5.
Yeah, also, it's a CBS game. Oklahoma's at ESPN.
That's a good point.
ESPN game for whatever that's.
I mean, that's not been a thing that's stopped them before, but it's got to be a really big game for them to go where they're not broadcast.
And Texas Tech, Utah is the Fox 11 a.m. game, so big noon kickoff will be there. So I'm going to guess they don't go there.
Right.
So We will see. We will see. How about that on CBS, Kev? I bet you guys feel so vindicated when you hear
and
that.
It's going to be Brad Nessler, Gary Danielson on the call. They will be in town next weekend. I've already got an interview lined up with Gary Danielson.
Nice.
His last
This is his last
season.
go around.
Yeah, he's retiring
awesome.
after this year. And we have a pregame show on 10-11. Since our network is carrying the game, we'll have live coverage from 1 to 2, and then it goes into the national pregame show and Huskers kickoff at 2:30.
Love it.
Ooh, baby.
Shouldn't be looking ahead to next week, but we are.
Let's do it.
And now all next week I'm going to be humming the dun-na-na-na-na-na-na-na.
You want a simulcast big red overreaction? We can make
We
that
can do
work.
a lot of fun things with this. It's not very often Nebraska's been on 10-11. I think the last game was Iowa 2 years
Iowa
ago.
2 years ago, yeah.
Oh, the punch game. Yeah, we remember that.
In the bad finish.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't say that. All right, we're going to do the picks coming up next. John kept his lead. What happened behind him? We'll tell you right after this on KLIN.
When you're thinking Huskers,
Throws up a wall. Blocking better than cholesterol tonight.
think 1499.3 KLIN. Bragging rights means everything. Let the trash talk begin. It's time to call your shot in the Friday Husker Tailgate Pigskin Picks of the Week. Presented by Exchange Bank on Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3 KLIN.
All right, John hangs on to first place. He got a half point for that stupid Big East UConn push. He's got 7.5. I was the closest on the Huskers. I'm in second at 7. Kevin and Nate tied 4-5. So the order will be John, Jack, Kevin, Nate will be the order. First game is tonight. Dion going to Houston. John, who you got?
Dion does not have a solidified quarterback. Houston.
I am taking Houston as well. Kevin.
3, Houston.
Cougs.
All the way around. We're doing that a lot this year. Second game is going to be SEC Georgia at Tennessee. John?
Tennessee.
I got Georgia in this one. Kevin?
I got Georgia. Rocky flop tonight.
Oh.
Go Dogs.
All right. There we go. A little bit of a split on that one. Texas A&M at Notre Dame. John?
Notre Dame.
I got Notre Dame.
Irish.
All the way around. Nobody's gambling yet. Minnesota at Cal, a late one on Saturday night. Weird game.
Bears in the upset.
Ooh, I'll take the Gophers.
Ski-U-Ma.
Ghosts.
All right, there we go. 3-1 on all of those. Upset pick, more than a 7 or more point underdog.
Take the road, country home. West Virginia getting 7.5 at home against Pitt.
Old Dominion getting 7.5. Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech is failing.
Give me Trent Bray and Oregon State 23.5 at Texas Tech.
USF 17.5 at Miami.
Whoa,
That's a good one.
All right,
that's a good one.
Nebraska score. What do you guys got?
55-6.
Now I will take 66-10.
55-10. I had it written down previously before you guys said that.
A little slower than last week. 45-7. Good guys.
That's it for the show. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week on the Tailgate on KLIN.
You're listening to the Friday